All right, this update is brought to you by the San Diego International Airport. Padres start a 3-game series against the Mariners tonight. It's the Vetter Cup. 6:40 first pitch. Stephen Kolek will be on the mound for the Padres. Tomorrow night, SDFC takes on Kansas City. 7:30 start time at Snapdragon Stadium. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. And tonight, NBA action, Game 6 between the Knicks and the Celtics. Knicks looking to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, while the Celtics are trying to force a Game 7. And look at the PGA Championship leaderboard right now, leading the tournament at 8 under par. Jonathan Vegas, Scotty Scheffler, he has made a push today. He is at 4 under par. And my guy, Matt Fitzpatrick, is 6 under par. At the first phase of the International Terminal and Airport at San Diego International Airport is underway and opens this fall. In addition to a new airport experience, the roads around the airport are changing. Please pay attention to roadway signage and drive safely.
The Padres looking to win another series against the Mariners at Petco this weekend. Team's getting healthy, so what happens next? Plus, SDFC is back at Snapdragon versus Colorado. San Diego lives here with John and Jim.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, what's going on? Hour 1, John and Jim. Another big baseball weekend on tap. Padres, Mariners, Vetter Cup. The forced rivalry series will get underway tonight down at Petco. Padres off and off. They're trying to stay hot.
Is that the name of this weekend? Forced rivalry weekend?
Across the sport, it's forced rivalry weekend, but this is extra forced to me. It's one thing to just put on social media, it's rivalry weekend. That's fine. They can say whatever they want on social media about rivalry weekend. Vetter Cup takes it a step further. They're not calling the Phillies Pirates series like the Keystone series. Maybe they are. Maybe I missed it. Or they're not calling Royals Cardinals the Show Me State series, but they're calling the Mariners Padres series the Vetter Cup.
What are they calling the Rockies D-backs rivalry series?
The battle for relevancy. I don't know.
What about the Tigers Toronto Blue Jays rivalry series? That's a big rivalry.
Yeah, so it is rivalry weekend in baseball, whatever that means. Yeah. But the biggest rivalries in the sport, like Cubs, Cardinals, Dodgers, Giants, the more recent rivals of Dodgers, Padres, Yankees, Red Sox, none of those teams are meeting each other. No. It's basically interleague weekend is what they should call it. I'm fine with Cubs, White Sox. Okay. Yeah. The Subway Series, yeah, that's relevant. It's not Yankees, Red Sox. Like those are good series. Royals, Cardinals makes sense regionally, but it's not rivalry weekend. It's like since interleague play, these are the teams we put together weekend.
Why don't you call it like regional weekend? I don't
even know if it's that because of like this Vetter Cup. I mean, how regional is Seattle's not exactly a stone's throw away from San Diego, California. And the thing with that Vetter Cup, which has an actual trophy, like a guitar trophy.
It's the Padres Mariners isn't the only series this weekend that has a trophy, by the way.
Which is the other?
I believe the Bay Bridge series between the Giants and A's has like a Bay Bridge trophy.
That makes more sense because they did play in the same, cities, so to speak, for a number of years. So that makes more sense. Probably than they play in the same area. They play in the Bay, right? The A's and the Giants.
Yeah. Well, one was in Oakland,
and one was in San Francisco.
But now you can't call it the Bay Bridge series because they're in Sacramento.
True, and they're already, and then they're going to be in Vegas. Obviously.
Right, doesn't make sense anymore.
And the Vetter Cup, truthfully, I mean, to me, it's forced. Again, is it a reason to lose sleep over anything? No,
you think?
But I mean, for a guy that isn't even a Padres fan or a Mariners fan, but is a Cubs fan. Now, the good news is I know there's some like donations for charity as a part of the series. So there's a way to like make it have more value. So it is what it is. I mean, honestly, we'll talk to Aaron Goldsmith, who's the voice of the Mariners, coming up at 3 p.m. to get his 2 cents on it. We'll talk to Kevin Acee at 5 p.m. as well. What do you got?
Sorry, I just saw some breaking news. Brock Purdy's just signed an extension with the Niners. But we'll talk about that later.
That is huge.
Yeah, that's not going to start our show today because but there we go.
All right. So anyway, Padres Mariners game 1 is tonight. And again, Aaron Goldsmith, voice of the Mariners at 3 p.m. Kevin Acee, Our Padres insider will join us at 5 p.m. The other thing as we get ready for the series is what John Heyman reported last night. John Heyman's been a little bit all over the place with, he had AJ Preller, I think, on his podcast within the last month. He's like, hey, would you trade Michael King or Dylan Cease? And Preller answered it actually appropriately, but it made no sense because it was in season and the Padres were 14-3. Well, Heyman reported last night that the Padres will try to bring back either Dylan Cease or Michael King, with King being the primary target. Obviously, that is massive reporting if accurate. If the Padres are actually trying to secure an extension with either Dylan Cease or Michael King, that will not come cheap. And that will be a huge, huge shot in the arm for the organization if they are able to bring back either of those pitchers beyond 2025.
I love hearing this because this is what I've wanted to hear. I've wanted to hear that the Padres are hopeful of bringing one of these guys back, and also that they, kind of prefer Michael King. Like in this article that's behind a paywall from John Heyman, does mention that scouts look at Michael King as the better pitcher long-term wise, and a guy that might, last longer than Dylan Cease. Stuff wise, they both have great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about it. I just know that watching Michael King for the last year plus here and Dylan Cease for the last year plus here, we've talked about it. It's not even close. It's Michael King for me all day.
Here's what I would say. I'll take either, and I won't complain. If they signed either of these pitchers to an extension, I would be over the moon excited about it, because it's hard to guarantee, or it's hard to really know who's going to have a better next 5 years. So I would bet on either of them. I'd prefer to have either over neither, obviously. So if they deem it to be Michael King, I'm 100% on board. If they somehow get a deal done with Dylan Cease, I'm 100% on board. So if they get either of those done, to me, that is a massive development. I didn't see it this offseason. This offseason, we're talking about how are they shedding payroll? Where are they paring back? And that hasn't been the conversation since the year started. The Jackson Merrill extension, what John Heyman is reporting here today. I mean, if this comes to fruition, Michael King or Dylan Cease long-term, the John Seidler era is off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, I would much prefer Michael King.
Much prefer.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Not even close. For me, just for me, like personally, Michael King all day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah. If okay,
in terms of because it's cheaper, because he's better,
I think both. I think he's better, and I think that you could get him for cheaper because who's Dylan Cease's agent?
Right.
Come on. So for me, it's pretty simple. If you said, all right, you got to pick one, every day I'm picking Michael King. No, that's nothing against Dylan Cease. I like Dylan Cease a lot, and when he's out there and on, he's one of the best pitchers in the game. We've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got no-hit stuff, literally. But durability, less innings on his arm, stuff-wise, consistency. To me, it's Michael King.
What if you couldn't get a deal done with King? If for whatever reason.
Yeah, and then you landed
Dylan Cease, because you don't really control what the player or the agent wants.
Yeah,
in that scenario.
Believe me. If they signed one of them, that's great.
Yeah, that's my point. I think if you sign one of them, that's huge. I like Michael King a lot. I like Dylan Cease a lot. Michael King has no doubt had a better start to the year than Dylan Cease, and I like what he did last year in the postseason.
Yeah. But if you're asking me to choose, like Jim, choose between A or B,
right?
I'm choosing Michael King.
Yeah, I would love to start with Michael King as the workhorse, the ace moving forward into his 30s. I mean, if Michael King is here in 2026 and you pair him with a healthy Joe Musgrove, and you've got Nick Pivetta, and you've got an aging Yu Darvish, I mean, you're kind of where you need to be from a rotation perspective if you have either King or Cease back in 2026. I think if both walk, you've got gaping holes in your rotation. It would make sense to me that the Padres would, seriously pursue it, even if it is going to, I don't know if it's going to break the bank or not, but it makes sense to me to pursue, because if you don't have either of those pitchers in your rotation next year, I don't know how you make up for that. Maybe with a signing like Nick Pivetta, which they just did this past offseason. But
when they trade for Paul Skeens at the deadline.
Yeah, exactly. When they trade for Paul Skeens, that'll be the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, The funny thing is, like we talked about it yesterday, you're like the capital it would take to get Paul Skeens. Again, it's not happening.
It's a pipe dream.
Like, would you prefer to give up the capital to go get Paul Skeens or just extend?
Just extend Michael King.
Probably just go extend that pitcher.
And Michael King is going to cost less than Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease could demand somewhere close to $200 million. I think Michael King could get well over 100, but nowhere close to 200. Like we had Dan Zamborski on the other day, and asking about comps. He said, around 100 million, over 100 million. That would be, to me, if you signed Michael King, or if he signs a contract, say 4 years, 100 million. That to me is pretty good.
Well, what was interesting though is he compared it to the Zach Wheeler deal.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Zach Wheeler deal, it's $42 million a year.
That's a lot.
So yeah, it's $100 million because it's only 3 years. So he got 3 years, $126 million. That was the specific player he referenced for Michael King. So now the total dollars aren't 200 million, but the AAV of 42 might be more than Dylan Cease's next deal of $200 million.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But how do you look? What would you rather have? Would you rather have a short-term deal for higher AAV, or a long-term deal for, I guess, more money overall, but a lower AAV?
Short-term.
I agree.
Short-term.
Especially for a pitcher.
Yeah, I don't know what that would mean, though, for their desires with their payroll. But, I mean, if you're talking to Michael King about an extension, you're willing to go over whatever that threshold is going to be. Same thing I would think with Dylan Cease, because where are you shedding payroll if you're the Padres moving forward? They're not having all this money come off the books.
Well,
in the future, right?
John, I'm not too worried about that right now. If John Heyman's reporting that the Padres are hopeful that they can re-sign one of these guys,
then it might be accurate.
That's good news.
Right. If there's any accuracy to it.
If there is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that, they've probably talked about, the future and what they were going to do with these two players and how they're going to approach it. But there's nothing like imminent at all. There's nothing that's like on the table. I feel like that's going to happen within the next 48 hours.
That's one of those things you never know. We didn't think Jack Samara was going to sign an extension April 5th, and he did. Those are the things that are really hard to predict, because how else do you sign an extension? You don't sign it out of season. How do you extend Michael King or Dylan Cease? And
the Padres have signed players in season before.
Right.
Joe Musgrove signed a 5-year, $100 million contract in season.
Well, you can't sign him out of season.
No,
because free agents.
Once he goes to free agency, I think he's gone, because I think that he's going to be looked at as one of the top pitchers on the market, and he's going to get a boatload of money. So you got to get this thing done in season. I would predict if they were to get it done in season, All-Star break.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah. Although if you're the pitcher and you really want to get something done long-term, it's in your interest to do it sooner rather than later, because you're relying on your health. If you're trying to stick around with an extension, there's no reason to wait. If you're not trying to stick around, you want to wait it out until you're a free agent.
We'll ask Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kevin's talked about it. Kevin has said to us they've had an interest in extending Michael King. I know he has said that right here.
Yep.
Since spring training.
But I don't think they've talked to Michael King in spring training before the season started. He was asked, like, have the Padres reached out to you about a contract extension? And it was a quick no.
No. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So that was from Michael King directly. All right. On the other side, first of all, we're going to talk to Brian Kalbrowski, NBA staff writer, USA Today. We'll talk about the NBA postseason heading to the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. Plus, he has written about Miles Byrd and the decision he has, the Aztec. Will he stay or go? But on the other side, believe it or not, the Padres tried to trade Jackson Merrill in 2022. We'll explain coming up next. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Brian Kalbrowski, NBA writer, USA Today, with more on the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, which are coming up. We still don't know, obviously, the Western Conference Finals as of yet, but also on Miles Bird and the Draft Combine. He wrote about Miles. He'll join us at 2:30. Also, San Diego FC back tomorrow night, Sporting KC at Snapdragon. You can hear the match live tomorrow night, 7 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. Your home for SDFC. We both found this to be at least interesting. This was from Ken Rosenthal today.
Yeah.
That when the Padres traded for Juan Soto, and Padres fans will remember this, there was absolutely chatter about their interest for Shohei Ohtani. And Preller has commented on that publicly before. I mean, it's been his white whale for forever. He's gone after him 3 times. The initial time he came over at the trade deadline 2022, and well, I don't know if they went after him as a free agent when he went to the Dodgers. I mean, that was a pipe dream.
Yeah, no.
With the dollar figures, but at least multiple times.
I do think that if the National League had the DH when Ohtani came over to the States,
then maybe he makes it.
There's a good chance.
I agree. Yeah. But again, he went to Anaheim because there was no universal DH at the time. So what Ken Rosenthal wrote today was that for Ohtani, Padres general manager, this is when Ohtani may have been available at the 2022 deadline. They elected to keep him, obviously. He says the Preller might have parted with a comparable or even better package than the one he gave up for Soto, even for one less year of club control. Jackson Merrill was part of the trade discussions, is what Rosenthal writes. According to sources briefed on the talks, it's not out of the question the Padres would have included him if Artie Moreno was willing to go forward. Well, it's a good thing that Artie Moreno did not go forward because Ohtani would be hurt at the end of 2022, and they would have had 2023 with Ohtani. He then would have walked for $700 million, obviously. And the 2023 Padres team wasn't good. Now, Ohtani could have changed that, but how much could he have changed the 2023 Padres?
Usually when these things come up like this, you're like, oh, man, they could have the best player in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually really happy they didn't make that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really happy they didn't make that deal. Because you would have lost Ohtani. He was never going to, he was always going to the Dodgers.
Agreed.
And even if you wanted to resign him, like, you're not going to pay, and you're not going to spend $750 million. It's not happening. So that was the first part of it. He was always going to the Dodgers, and you had never had a chance to resign him. And you would have lost Jackson Merrill. So, yeah, I am like looking at this right now.
Yep. Knowing what we know.
Exactly.
Yep.
Hindsight.
Yep.
So happy they didn't make this deal.
Yeah, I agree with that. And by the way, it wouldn't have just been like Jackson Merrill.
No.
It would have been Jackson Merrill and James Wood and CJ Abrams.
So everybody, including Jackson Merrill.
Yeah, like he might have been the carrot to make a move like that actually happen, to put it over the top. And the Angels, I mean, again, like you said, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm glad they didn't do it. And of course, with the benefit of hindsight, what are the Angels thinking in holding on to Shohei Ohtani in 2022?
Oh, yeah. If you're an Angel fan now, oh my god,
you could have had all these centerpieces. I mean, you don't know if it's going to work out or not, but look at what Washington and what they did, at least for Juan Soto. And the Angels did the exact opposite. It was like, hold the line, just keep them.
I remember that year because they thought that they made trades to try to make the postseason.
They were good at the deadline.
And then Ohtani blew out his arm.
And Trout got hurt, right?
And Trout got hurt. I think Trout got hurt. I think
that's right.
But they were trying to go for it. And they traded for a starting pitcher, I think. And
then didn't they lose like 10 straight off after the deadline?
Yeah.
Look it up.
It was awful. Artie Moreno, there's a reason why the Angels have been god awful the last 2+ decades. Is because they have an awful owner.
They were so bad after
and they don't know what the hell they're doing there. So, like, if I'm an Angels fan today and I see that report, I am so mad. You had a chance to have James Wood, who's going to be a perennial all-star. You had the opportunity to have Jackson Merrill, who's going to be a perennial all-star. You had the opportunity to have Mackenzie Gore, who is going to be a maybe not an ace, but he can be a frontline starting pitcher, like a 2 or a 3. And CJ Abrams, who's already been an all-star. Dude.
No, it was, correct me if I'm wrong. The year they traded for Soto was 22. Yeah. But it was in 23, dude, when the Angels were good. Because in 23, at the deadline, they were 56-51. And then look at this. The deadline comes, they lose 7 straight.
Well, this was more like AJ Preller kind of testing the waters, knowing Ohtani's not re-signing with the Angels. So they're going to have to make a decision on him either now or next year.
Mhm.
And we know Preller, he was going for controllable guys. He always goes for controllable guys. Rarely does he go for a rental. And when he goes for a rental, he goes and gets that rental. This past year, Tanner Scott. But yeah, I absolutely believe that 2022, he was also asking about Ohtani. They sucked in 2022, right?
They were bad. They were like 10 or 15 under at the deadline, the Angels.
Yeah, if Preller tried in 23 to get Ohtani as well, he couldn't have because he traded everybody for Juan Soto.
And
that's
that
why
was the year that the
2022
Angels, and it was a perfect storm of ineptitude by the Angels, because when they sucked in 22, they didn't move them. When they were quasi good in 23, they couldn't move them because you're quasi good.
Yeah. So no, this was in 22. It makes sense. Controllable. You have the pieces to do it. You're going to try for one or the other. He got one of them in Juan Soto. The Nationals are a smart franchise. They did the deal. The Angels are a dumb franchise. They thought that keeping Ohtani, and they had a chance to re-sign him when they never did. So yeah, this is 2022. It makes sense.
Yeah, it's the 2022 deadline.
Yeah,
100%. I'm just saying in 2023, the Angels, the Padres couldn't have gone after Ohtani because he wasn't on the market then, because they were 5 games over 500.
And also, they already traded away all their assets for Juan Soto the previous year.
That as well. And by the way, what makes the Angels not considering a deal in 2022 even more egregious is you could have gotten the same Soto return plus Merrill, arguably, for less control of Ohtani than Soto. Soto had 2.5 years of control. Ohtani had 1.5 years of control. Again, everything looks different with hindsight, but yeah, for the Padres, they definitely benefited. Who would have ever thought that? They may have actually benefited for not trading for arguably the best player in the game in Shohei Ohtani. All right, Brian Kolbrowski will join us on the other side. We'll talk about the NBA postseason and Miles Byrd at the Combine. He has written about Miles Byrd, the San Diego State standout guard who's got a decision to make. Will he stay or go? Don't go anywhere. Sean and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, this update is brought to you by Jim Petrell Real Estate Team. We'll start with the Padres. They start the Vetter Cup tonight at Petco Park, 6:40 first pitch. Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres. Breaking news in the NFL, the Niners and Brock Purdy have agreed on a contract extension, making him the 7th highest paid QB in the NFL. It's a 5-year, $265 million contract extension, $180 million of that guaranteed. Tomorrow night, SDFC takes on Kansas City, 7:30 start time. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts. And tonight, NBA action, Game 6, Knicks versus Celtics. Knicks looking to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals while the Celtics are trying to force a Game 7. Would you like to know what your home would sell for today? Get a simple text message with your home's value by texting your address to 855-600-6000. You'll get no phone call, just a text. Jim Petrell has the buyers. Simply text your address to 855-600-6000.
All right, NBA postseason obviously well underway. NBA draft only about a month away, and locally a lot of intrigue with Miles Bird, the standout guard for the Aztecs the last few years, and Brian Kalbrowski, NBA staff writer, USA Today's For the Win, has been writing about Miles Bird, and he's back with us here on John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. So, Brian, appreciate you taking time for us. I know you wrote about this today. How much did Miles Bird improve his draft stock based on what played out this past week in Chicago? And thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think that Miles Bird was undeniably one of the biggest winners of the NBA draft combine. I think at this point, it's probably enough for him to stay in the draft as long as he feels comfortable with the range that he heard from the front offices and evaluators that were in Chicago with him. But what he did in Chicago was definitely enough to at least catch their attention. He's clearly one of the better defensive playmakers at his position, and he measured well too. That 6'10" wingspan is enough to grab some attention. I don't know if we can guarantee that he'll be a first-round pick, but the interesting thing is that he's not in the transfer portal, which means that it's not like there's going to be another team that swoops in and offers some crazy NIL deal that could trump anything that San Diego State is currently offering to him. It's basically either, do I feel comfortable enough with my draft range to improve it enough to go back to school for another year at San Diego State, or do I turn pro? And at this point, rather than, fishing for NIL deals at other schools, that's a pretty simple equation for him. What is San Diego State offering versus what is my projected draft range? I don't know if it's quite first round. It probably is in that late 20s to, maybe early 40s range. But I think that he will get drafted if he stays in this class rather than goes back to school. And that's definitely an interesting place for him to be.
If he did go back to school and he does improve on the things that scouts and NBA people tell him that he needs to improve on, how much could he help his draft stock if he were to enter the draft next year instead of this year?
Well, obviously, he ended the season on a pretty sour note. The postseason performance was not the last taste that he would want people to remember him by, which isn't exactly the worst case because he's now had some opportunities in front of other people at the combine to show what he will do more recently rather than what he did in the postseason. So he could improve on his play a little bit. He's not even going to be 21 on the night of the draft. So next year he'll still be 21 on draft night, which doesn't make him very old, all things considered, especially compared to other prospects. I mean, if you look at someone like Nick Clifford, he's going to be 23 on draft night. If you look at someone like Cam Jones, he'll be 23 on draft night. If you look at someone like Johnny Broom, he'll be 23 on draft night. So still only being 22 next year doesn't really limit his opportunities. But I do think that realistically, he can probably end up in a pretty similar range unless he ends up vying for like consensus All-American next season at San Diego State, or maybe leads them to a Final Four run, which San Diego State has had before. It's not like it's impossible for that program to make it to the Final Four. I don't quite know if I see enough talent on that roster right now. Obviously, getting Guaf back instead of him going to the portal is helpful for that. But I think at this point, he's in a pretty comfortable place where he's probably going to be at about the same as he would be this year, as he would be next year, barring, first team All-American type of performance while at San Diego State.
Really good insight. Brian Kolbrowski, NBA staff writer, USA Today's For the Win, with us on John and Jim. Can you walk us through what it looks like for a player from like a guarantee perspective? You hear a lot about that this time of year. Like if a player gets a guarantee, then they'll stay in a draft. So like for a Miles Burr, like you said, maybe he could be a late 20s pick, which is a first rounder. Maybe he could go in the 30s or the 40s, which is a second rounder. But can a second round pick also get a guaranteed NBA contract? And what would that look like?
Yeah, so guaranteed contract and guaranteed draft spot are definitely two similar but different things. You know, a guaranteed contract you're going to get still in the second round. Likely it might be a two-way, which is a little bit less of a guarantee depending on where you go. But if you're in the early 30s, you'll probably get a standard contract. The thing about the first round that's different from the second round is that the first round has a slotted rookie scale contract depending on what pick you get over the course of 4 years. Now, there's obviously options in that contract where the team could opt out, which, you know, you see happen fairly regularly. But at the same time, you're at least having 4 years kind of locked into place does give you pretty solid job security. And a guarantee on draft night is basically a team saying to Miles Bird, hey, if you're still there at 28 and we have the 28th pick, we're going to take you. They can tell you that all you want. There's nothing beyond just bad blood between them and agents in the future and them and that player in the future that is binding. You know, there's no legal tender that holds up in court. That's like, hey, you gave me your word. So a lot of the times you can say a guarantee, but then it's like, oh, actually, you know, I know we said 28, but next thing you know, let's say a couple of years ago, it was Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore fell to us, and we had our hands tied. Cam Whitmore was a projected top 5 pick, and now he's here. So you see that sometimes where a team can give you a guarantee and go back on it because it's really just their word. And maybe the agent's not going to want to work with them again in the future. Maybe the player will hold bad blood with them forever, but it doesn't actually mean guarantee. Guaranteed contract, that is a guarantee once you sign it. And a guaranteed contract in the second round is basically going to be up to the agent negotiating. And then the first round is kind of based on where you were picked. And so the first overall pick gets a certain amount of money, and it's the second overall pick gets a certain amount of money, slightly less, all the way down to 30. Whereas the second round is a more negotiated contract.
Brian, are you on the side of Cooper Flagg is one of the best NBA prospects we've seen in recent history, or are you not?
Yeah, absolutely. I have no doubt about that. I wrote about him when he was 15 as the best defensive prospect I've ever evaluated. And that was when he was 15 as a freshman playing in Maine. Only since then did he become even better at Montverde Academy in Florida. And then during his what would have been senior year of high school in Duke, in which he was the best player in college basketball as a true high school senior. I am beyond confident in Cooper Flagg's abilities on and off the basketball court. I think he's got the right mentality, the right physicality, the right build, and the right two-way playmaking on both sides of the ball to make an immediate impact for the Mavericks, unless they happen to trade him, which I don't think they will, based on the reporting we've seen so far. I think that realistically, he could be an all-defensive candidate really early in his career. I think he's going to play for Team USA in 2028. He gave them fits during summer workouts when he played for the select team. And he finished most of his possessions, the majority of his possessions he finished, whereas the ball handler and pick and roll, as somebody who's, 6'9" in shoes. I think that if defense is his calling card and he's also a decent shooter on the catch and off the dribble, and he's running pick and roll, and he's a defensive playmaker, I'm not really sure what there is to even question there. And anybody who does question it, I would really be curious to see what exactly their flaws are, because all around, comprehensively, he checks every box for me.
Is it fair to say, because we've seen some of this discussion, that with Cooper Flagg, the Mavericks are they immediately championship caliber with the pieces that they have? Now they have the offseason and free agency that they can obviously add as well. They can do it via trade, but like with Cooper Flagg and Anthony Davis, we'll see when Kyrie comes back. What does Dallas look like into this upcoming year?
Yeah, I think it really depends on how Kyrie Irving recovers from his injury. It's not an Achilles, which is encouraging, but it is still an ACL, and he is still in his 30s, and he is still a guard. I think that they're going to have to figure out guard play, and I think that they are going to make a move to try to figure out how to improve the guard position until Kyrie Irving comes back. I think that they could potentially start off a little slow. Even Cooper started off relatively slow at Duke before he found his groove. I don't think Cooper Flag day one is going to be one of those stars in the NBA to make them, the same player that he was at Duke, but I do think that he will find that groove probably by midseason. I think that he should be the consensus overwhelming favorite to win Rookie of the Year, and definitely will have, my bet if I were a betting guy, no matter what the odds are, so long as he stays healthy. But I think without Kyrie Irving, it's hard to evaluate just how good they'll be. Now, if they're in the playoff hunt and then Kyrie Irving comes back and suddenly you have Kyrie, Clay, Flag, AD, Lively developed, that's a pretty good team on both sides of the ball. You've got the defense with AD, Flag, and Lively. You've got the offense with Kyrie, Clay, and Flag. You've got a pretty interesting roster that's being built. And I think they're going to make some moves around the edges. PJ Washington's not quite as needed as he once was. They might have to move Gafford to get a guard who could potentially replace Kyrie for the first half of the season. So they're definitely a team to watch. And I think that Flag is going to make them, once again, a very interesting contender for the Mavericks just after trading Luka Doncic.
Who's your favorite of all the teams remaining to win the NBA title?
I would say the Thunder are my favorite until they're out. I think that realistically, they've been my favorite all season. They've been the team that's had the most interest for me from the beginning. I think that, if the Nuggets can take them out now, I really don't know. But I think that the Thunder are definitely the team that's the biggest force. I mean, you rarely see that type of offense and defense, and we're seeing a little bit of the Knicks. Actually, not the Knicks, because that's a different team, but kind of the things that are the issue with the Thunder that are being exposed by the Nuggets in some ways, especially with their youth. But I think that so long as the Thunder can get out of this round, they should have the edge in route to the championship, especially now that Jason Tatum's out, not only for this postseason, but almost definitely all of next year as well.
Brian, real quick, the final one from me before you go. Back to Miles Byrd, we're the flagship for San Diego State. Can you describe for our listeners how his game, it seems like some players, their game is tailored for college, and other players, their game might be tailored for the NBA. What makes Miles Byrd such an intriguing NBA prospect when you look at his overall skill set?
Yeah, I love guys who can come in and play minutes that will be impactful, and Miles Byrd is an impactful player. And I don't think they're going to have to build an offense around him for him to make a lot of sense. Guys that scored a ton of ISO points in college aren't necessarily going to get ISO buckets the same way they would in an NBA environment where they're no longer the best player on the court, especially for guys coming from like a mid-major where they really had to rely on them. Miles obviously was the best player in San Diego State, but he does enough of the tertiary things like that defensive playmaking that is so valuable that you can bring him in as your 8th, 9th man and have a role for him just as a guy who can get a few stops while your starters are taking a breath. And, from there, you can carve that out into something pretty big down the stretch if teams really start to trust you. I think Miles Byrd is somebody who could play on a playoff roster. I think that he's somebody who can absolutely make a difference. I did not have him in the first round of my latest mock draft, and I'm only doing first round right now, but I will start doing second rounds very soon because of his kind of poor performance during the tournament. But I do think that he's going to be pushing for one of those top 30 spots once guys start declaring that they're going to go back to school or not. Obviously, he's one of those guys that could go back to school, but there's plenty of guys who are testing the waters, who I do have in the first round, who might not actually be eligible on draft night. So let's say I had Miles currently slated like 35, he stays in the draft, and then 5 guys go back to school that are above him. Suddenly, a team's picking at 30. Teams picking at 30 are usually playoff contenders looking for guys to fill the end of their bench. He can come in and do that as a guy who could hit some threes, make some passes, and make some defensive stops and potentially swing games for whatever team he's played on in a scaled down role from what we saw at San Diego State.
That is terrific insight, and that's why we brought you on, Brian. We appreciate it. We're looking forward to your coverage throughout the course of the next month or so, leading up to the draft. USA Today's For the Win, Brian Kalbrowski. Brian, thanks for doing it today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, great stuff. We can react. Plus, the Padres lineup is out. A key indicator into the future of left field for the Padres. On the other side, this is John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. Right. Aaron Goldsmith, TV voice of the Mariners, will join us coming up in about 10 minutes. Padres Mariners tonight. We've got the Padres lineup that we'll share with you in a moment. Jim not only has the amazing ability to jinx Padres and ruin their seasons, he can also reverse jinx players on other teams and make them unbelievable. So
correct.
Since your tweet saying that Jackson Merrill's the greatest center fielder ever, if you don't agree, or go argue the wall.
I didn't say ever. You're not getting it right. You've tried like 75 times. Best center fielder in baseball.
I don't have it memorized. Since you said he's the best center fielder in baseball, He hasn't been, and Pete Crow Armstrong, everyone was mentioning in your mentions, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Has taken over the sport. He's
Right.
got the most home runs since the middle of April in the sport.
Yeah.
He had 6 RBIs today,
Yeah.
a 3-run home run.
Yeah.
So do you take credit for turning around Pete Crow Armstrong and turning around Jackson Merrill the opposite way?
No, I didn't turn around Pete Crow Armstrong. I just made him into like
A
Aaron Judge
superhero.
2.0.
Right.
That's exactly what I did.
Right.
I've ruined Jackson Merrill. That's a fact.
Nah, you haven't really.
But I have just elevated Pete Crow Armstrong into like the atmosphere. I mean, he is on a rocket ship now. By the way, I never said that I didn't think Pete Crow Armstrong wasn't good. You know, we talked about this before the show. If you say somebody's better than someone else, like the LeBron and Michael Jordan stupid debate.
Right.
If you say LeBron's better than Jordan, people automatically think you are saying that Michael Jordan sucks. Like, no.
Right. But when you say argue with a wall, you're kind of saying like it's clear and definitive, right?
What do you mean?
Go argue with the wall means it's not even an argument.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying, yes.
So you said like and by the way, when I was watching Jackson Merrill play, and I still am, the guy, you can absolutely make the case for being the best center fielder in the sport.
He's gotten
you probably can make the case for Pete Crow Armstrong, who right now is having himself a year.
No, he's been incredible.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. My personal opinion, that's what it is. My personal opinion, I think Jackson Merrill is the best in baseball.
Here's how baseball works. Like, let's be honest with each other. Nobody's watching Pete Crow Armstrong other than Cubs fans, and nobody's watching Jackson Merrill other than Padres fans.
True.
That's what this sport is.
Unless you're
in the NFL, you're watching Tua and you're comparing him to Mahomes. You can watch it easily.
Yeah.
In baseball, how often are San Diegans sitting around at 11 a.m. Pacific and watching the Cubs at 2 p.m.? Very rarely. So, and now when they lock horns, when the Cubs play the Padres, people have those conversations, you know?
I would say this, the Cubs get way more national games than the Padres do. So I would say from a national audience, more people would probably see more Pete Crow Armstrong Cubs games than they would Padres games.
Maybe, but I mean, it's the middle of May. How many times have the Cubs been on national TV compared to the Padres this year? You know, Padres have been on Sunday Night Baseball a couple of times. They've been on Apple TV a couple of times.
They're Apple TV tonight.
They're Apple TV tonight to start the Vetter Cup. Exactly. So I listen. Merrill's a terrific player. Pete Crow Armstrong's had a terrific start to his year.
Yeah.
And they might be teammates with each other in the All-Star game.
Probably. And again, you're right. Baseball is like the ultimate regionalized sport now. It's not. That's
hard to watch.
That's why you never see it be talked about nationally because of how regional it is, which is baseball's own issue. But because I watch Jackson Merrill every night and I listen to Jackson Merrill every day, and I don't watch Pete Crow Armstrong every night, and I don't listen to Pete Crow Armstrong every day, then yes, my opinions are definitely skewed towards Jackson Merrill.
And so are mine. And so are most people. It's just like the people that cover the Cubs are skewed towards Pete Crow Armstrong. And to your point, I do like the overall point that both can be really good.
Yes.
And both can have really good seasons, and both can be all-star caliber players. By the way, Padres lineup tonight. Aaron Goldsmith will join us in a few minutes. We'll get into this Brock Purdy deal in the 3 o'clock hour as well. Padres have Brandon Lockridge once again starting over Jason Hayward. That's the second consecutive game they've done that. So it looks like maybe Lockridge is taking hold of left field, which makes sense considering Jason Hayward's struggles. And now the question becomes, how long can Hayward kind of maintain a roster spot if Lockridge actually takes firm control of playing as more of a regular in left field moving forward?
Well, when you get a hit with the bases loaded the other night,
yep.
Guess what? You're going to be in the lineup the next day.
He should be.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's about who's going to take the bull by the horns here, and when given opportunities, who's going to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So far, right now, it's a very small sample size with Brandon Lockridge, but Brandon Lockridge came through the other night. Jason Hayward didn't.
Right.
Jason Hayward has not come through at all this year. So it's almost like a game-by-game basis. Hey, we're riding with the hot hand. And the last time that Brandon Lockridge was out there with an opportunity to do some damage, he did just that. Bases loaded, 2 outs, got a single up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Scoring 2 runs, you're playing the next day.
Yeah, I like it. He'll bat 9th tonight for the Padres, who have the big bats in there coming off an off day, and now it gets way more every day for the Padres. So many fewer off days from now, really until the All-Star break. If you look at it, they've had so many in the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season. They'll have a lot fewer over the next 6 or 7 weeks. And again, the first of 3 against the Seattle Mariners, who, Jim, and we'll have Aaron Goldsmith in a minute. The Mariners have been good. They haven't been perfect, but by their standards, a nice start to their year. 23-19 overall. Their offense has been good. I was just looking at their team stats. Their team on base plus slugging is 12th in baseball. Their team ERA is a little lower than you'd expect, but Mariners are 23-19. So they've had a decent start to their year.
That's like back to the point of how baseball is so regionalized.
Yeah, like who even knew?
I had no clue that the Mariners were 23-19 on the season.
Yeah.
And that they've been playing pretty good baseball and that they're in first place in the AL West.
Isn't that crazy?
Like, no clue.
Well, we'll learn more about
if this was football and they were playing the Seattle Seahawks, I would know what the Seattle Seahawks record is and if they're good or not.
Right.
But in baseball, no clue.
You know, it's funny. They're 23-19. They just finished a 1-5 homestand. So they were 22-14 heading into that homestand against the Blue Jays and the Yankees. They went 1-5, but still 23-19 heading to San Diego. We'll catch up with Aaron Goldsmith on the other side, TV announcer for the Seattle Mariners. That'll kick off hour 2 of John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, so it's brought to you by the Jim Petrell Real Estate Team. Padres Mariners. They start a 3-game series tonight at Petco Park. It's the start of the Vetter Cup. 6:40 first pitch. Stephen Kolk on the mound for the Padres. Tomorrow night, SDFC takes on Kansas City. 7:30 start time. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts. Breaking news in the NFL. The 49ers and Brock Purdy have agreed to a 5-year, $263 million contract extension. $53 million per year, making him the 7th highest paid QB in football. And tonight, NBA action. Knicks take on Celtics. Game 6. Knicks looking to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, while the Celtics are trying to force a Game 7. Would you like to know what your home would sell for today? Get a simple text message with your home's value by texting your address to 855-600-6000. You'll get no phone call, just a text. Jim Petrell is the buyer. Simply text your address to 855-600-6000.
Padres looking to win another series against the Mariners at Petco this weekend. Team's getting healthy, so what happens next? SDFC faces Sporting KC at Snapdragon Stadium. San Diego lives here with John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Hour 2, John and Jim with you until 6 p.m. here tonight. And always great to connect with Aaron Goldsmith, the Mariners television voice. And, of course, Mariners Padres kicking off this weekend series at Petco tonight. And, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, you're actually en route because tonight's game is on Apple TV+. So you'll be on the call, the next couple of days, but not tonight for the Mariners?
That's right. A rare Friday night off for us and Don and Mudd over there in San Diego as well.
It must be. I want to actually start there for a second because you guys work so many games, just like the players, where it's each and every day. When you get a game like a nationally televised game, like the Apple TV, or if it's an ESPN or whatever it is, how beneficial is that for you or a broadcaster over 162?
Must be nice.
It's got to be nice. It's got to feel like, having a life to yourself for a day or two.
Well, it is because, we all have families, and in my case, three young kids as well. And it's to get a chance to be able to spend a night at home that I wouldn't normally be able to be at home. The team's obviously in San Diego right now, and I had a chance to stay last night and part of this afternoon home with the families. It's great, man. You need those times to kind of reset a little bit, and we love what we do, and it's such a privilege to be able to call Major League Baseball. But when you have a chance to kind of reconnect and be a normal person for, call it 24 hours, it's a pretty nice feeling to have. So we really cherish those moments, all of us in the business do.
All right, Aaron, from a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you that this is the Vetter Cup weekend?
I was trying to think. Do you guys have the answer to this? Like, was this born on Twitter?
Yes. So,
and if so, that's kind of what I remember. Am I right on this?
So the quick backstory on it is because Eddie Vedder used to live in San Diego and then live in Seattle. It was born off of you know who Corey Brock is? I believe he covered.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love him to death.
Yeah, Corey Brock is one of the founding fathers of the Vetter Cup on social media back in the day. So you can have him. You can thank him for why this is now what it is.
Well, I'm glad you told me that. It's a good reason for me to reconnect with Corey. I love that guy. He's been good to both of these franchises over the course of his career.
All right, so Vetter Cup kicks off here tonight. Tell us about the Mariners, who have gotten off to a good start overall, right? 23-19, but a disappointing homestand, 1-5 against the Blue Jays and the Yankees. So what's gone right for the team overall, but what didn't go so right over the last 6 games?
Well, the offense has been a real calling card for the Mariners for the first 40-some games or so of the season, which I don't know how many people were expecting to say that. If you go back to really the trade deadline last year when the Mariners acquired Randy Arozarena, really, believe it or not, from that point until today, the Mariners have been one of the best offenses in baseball, whether you want to just look at bottom line runs scored or you want to go more advanced with WRC+. This year, the on base has been exceptional as well, in large part because they've had the highest walk rate in baseball going into that Yankees series. So the offense has been really, really good for the M's. And the pitching, which obviously, as you guys know, has really been the bedrock, the backbone of this organization for years at this point. In particular, the rotation has struggled in part because it's been injured. The Mariners are right now down 3 really key starting pitchers. They're down their opening day starter in Logan Gilbert. They're down arguably their second best starter in George Kirby. So 2 all-stars right there. And then they're down Bryce Miller, who just landed on the injured list and hasn't been especially sharp this season. and now we know why. He's been dealing with a minor elbow issue. Miller had a sub-3 ERA last year. He's one of the best starting pitchers in baseball a season ago. So because of that, you've had some real issues with the pitching. The back end of the bullpen has been elite with Andres Munoz, who is in the conversation as one of the best relievers in baseball right now. But as you guys know, when you can't suppress runs, sometimes it doesn't matter how many you can score. Fortunately, the Mariners have been able to kind of out-hit their pitching for a large part of this year, but on the homestand, that was not the case. They didn't score enough, especially in the Toronto series, and they gave up too many, which is obviously a bad recipe no matter who you're playing or where you're playing.
Cal Raleigh, one of the best catchers in baseball. He's had a great season so far. But what I want to know is, how did he get the nickname the Big Dumper?
Well, the reason why he has it is fairly self-explanatory. How he got it, everything that I've heard is that, believe it or not, Jared Kelenic, who was once, as you guys know, one of the top prospects in baseball and a top prospect for the Mariners, who has now moved on to Atlanta. It was Jared Kelenic who initially came up with the nickname Big Dumper, and it has taken off from there. I mean, they even have jerseys in Seattle that have the number 29 on the back, and it just says Big Dumper instead of Raleigh. So he's bought all in on it. I haven't called him Cal in like 3 years. I just call him Dumper whenever I see him. So it's people. He is, in my opinion, on a more serious note, I mean, he is the most valuable player for the Mariners. And Julio has the most potential of anyone on this roster, and among the most potential of anybody in baseball. And certainly when he is on fire, it's like almost nothing else that you can see in the game. But the value that Cal Raleigh brings on both sides of the ball is really, really difficult to quantify. He has played in every game, guys. He's played in every single game so far this year. He's come off the bench one time. A pinch hit and drove in a critical late inning run for the Mariners. So he's everything to the M's.
Yeah, it's incredible. Aaron Goldsmith is with us right now, Mariners television play-by-play voice right now on John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. I mean, what does it say about the Mariners' commitment? I mean, that was a pretty sizable deal, right? Locking up Cal Raleigh, giving him over $100 million. Like, what does that do for the fan base and just for the organization as a whole to lock up a player like that long term?
Well, the Mariners have had a knack for extensions.
Yeah.
On a smaller side, that was maybe less publicized because it happened so early in his career. A former Padre, Andres Munoz, signed an extension. Dylan Moore signed an extension many years ago. Luis Castillo signed an extension within literal months of being acquired by the Mariners from the Reds a few years ago at this point. And there's even more from there. Obviously, what they did with Julio is the big headliner. But when you lock up a guy like Cal Raleigh, who is really a foundational piece for your present and your future, it obviously shows how committed you are. It shows that you are willing to invest in this roster long term, and that you want someone to potentially have a real legacy in Seattle. Now, there's a chance that Cal's whole career is not in a Mariners uniform, but this extension certainly makes it a greater possibility that his whole career is in a Mariners uniform. And with a player like him, who you can make the case is already the best catcher in franchise history, the only guy that you would compare him to is the manager for the Mariners, Dan Wilson, whose career was certainly much longer. And who knows if Cal will be able to play for as long as Dan did. But the numbers that he's put up already, the fact that he has already a franchise-altering moment, which was the postseason clincher, the drought buster a number of years ago against the Athletics. You know, when you start doing all that and then you sign that kind of extension, it's like, okay, this guy is well on his way to becoming, and it's weird to say this after it's still just so early on in his career, but he's on his path to becoming one of the all-time great Mariners. And he's on a tough pace to hold up, but I mean, he just keeps having one career year after another. So it's been a joy to watch, and you couldn't ask for a better person, which is another big reason why the Mariners were willing to commit, because of the man, because of the person, not just even the player.
How much of the fan vitriol has died down with the Mariners now winning and scoring runs? Because if I'm not mistaken, like, not a great offseason, didn't really sign anybody, like a free agents, you know, the end of last year didn't go well for the Mariners. Like, how is the fandom there now with the Mariners playing some pretty good baseball?
Well, you are talking about a fan base who obviously has seen one postseason appearance in 22 years or so.
Yeah.
And the fan base also has not seen a run scored in their home ballpark in 22 some odd playoff years. The Mariners were shut out in their one playoff game a couple of years ago, that marathon of a game against the Astros. And there's also a fan base that has seen their team be good and not great. They have missed the playoffs in each of the last 2 years by one game. So does that mean that the Mariners haven't been a good team? Not at all. Mariners have been, if you look at just wins and losses over the last, you choose 3-4 years, the Mariners have been among the best teams in baseball in that regard, but that's been the issue, right? The Mariners have been able to get in that conversation, but they haven't been able to win a division. They haven't been able to really be a dominant team. They've been a very good team a number of years, but this is a year where, and we were saying this last year as well, but it really feels even more so now. I mean, the Mariners were very committed to the roster that they had, and maybe right now we're understanding why, and we're seeing reasons why because of how well they've played so far. But the Mariners are in a window right now with the pitching that they have, the starting pitching in particular, with players like Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez and J.P. Crawford, where you say, okay, this is the time. And in my opinion, if it's not now, when is it? When you look at this team and you look at the status of the American League West and how wide open it is, there's not a dominant team in the West like there was for a decade with the Astros. If the Mariners don't make the playoffs now, then when will they? So to me, it's this is the time. And it was a missed opportunity last year. You could say the year before that even as well. But obviously the Mariners are focused on right now. And if they don't make the playoffs now, then when will they?
Final one for me, Aaron, would just be on the Padres. When you look at their start, among the better teams in baseball, obviously Jackson Merrill's been a star as a youngster. They've got the veteran pieces like Machado and Bogarts. They've got the pitching staff. I mean, when you look at the Padres, what do you see? I mean, you see one of the more complete teams in the game?
Oh, there's no question. I think even though we're not fans of any team. Obviously, we have a rooting interest in the Mariners doing well in my case, but I still enjoy watching the 29 other teams play baseball. And the Padres, for some time now, have been among my favorite teams to watch play baseball. They draw great. They've got star power. They have been able to develop some of their own. You mentioned Merrill. It's always a great vibe in that place. Obviously, San Diego speaks for itself as a city. To me, this is one of the series I look forward to the most. I'm a little bummed that we're not on the air tonight because it's a really fun team, and I'm sure you guys see that. But I also know that when you're married to it, you see the flaws easier than when you fly in for 3 games and fly out, like I'll be doing. But it's a really fun team. It is a very complete team, and it's always a team that I look forward to watching because some teams are entertaining, but they're not good, right? And some teams can be good, but not be entertaining. And I feel like the Padres have the ability year in and year out for some time now to actually be both of those things, which is, I'm just a fan of baseball like we all are. Like, what else do you want? It's a pretty fun thing to have.
Aaron Goldsmith will be on the call for the Mariners this weekend. And Aaron, we always appreciate you taking time for us in San Diego. Safe travels. Enjoy the weekend series in San Diego, and we'll do it again at some point, maybe when these two teams meet up again in August.
The Clash of the Vetter Cup.
Hey, you got it.
That's right.
That's right. Well, hey, it'll be we'll be having some venom to spew by the Vetter Cup at that point.
No doubt. Real quick, Aaron, do you know the tiebreakers for this thing?
Yeah, it's isn't exit velo part of it?
Yeah, so if both teams have the same number of runs scored,
if it's like same run differential, then it goes down to another tier, which is like exit velocity. Whoever has the highest exit velocity on either team, that's the tiebreaker. That makes a lot of sense, right? Tell the guys to swing extra hard this weekend, just in case that comes into play.
I believe this is the proper shout out. Alex Mayer, who was one of the great baseball information PR people in the game. I believe Alex Mayer of the Mariners came up with that. So
wow,
he's a great Twitter follower, Alex Mayer 34.
Okay,
good knowledge.
He's unbelievable, and I believe that was an Alex Mayer special. So I hope it comes down to that for all the obvious
reasons. That'd be unbelievable.
I need it to come down to that.
All right, Aaron. Thanks, my friend. Travel safe. All right, Aaron Goldsmith with the Mariners. Like we joked about the other day, like if you're up 10-0 in the 9th inning, or you like just trying to pile on, Like typically you don't steal bases like in a 10-run game, or
Like-
you don't send a runner from second on a single to 10-run game, or you just waving guys home.
Runner on third base, less than 2 outs. Are you doing a suicide squeeze? Like I need to get that run home with the same. The run differential is
It's too
tied.
important.
Yeah. What if that happens?
It won't.
I know.
All right. The Niners have extended their quarterback. Did they do it at the right cost? We'll discuss on the other side here until 6 p.m. Kevin Acey will join us at 5. This is John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, AM radio keeps vital voices accessible. Congress can secure its future, but we need your help. Text AM to 52886 now to support keeping AM radio in cars. Tell your member of Congress to pass legislation now. Keep AM radio in cars. Standard message and data rates apply. Do we have Cynthia Freeland, by the way? Cool. So if you missed Cynthia Freeland yesterday, great resource for NFL fans. We talked about the upcoming 2025 schedule. You'll hear that coming up in about 10 or so minutes. But it is official. I know Jim has been waiting for this moment to discuss. Brock Purdy, $265 million 5-year extension. This in the ESPN article, by the way, Jim. He'll get paid more per week under his new deal, $2.9 million, than he did over his first 3 years of his career, $2.6 million. So Brock Purdy is going to be a pretty rich man, and he will be quarterbacking the San Francisco 49ers for the foreseeable future. That's for sure.
Yeah. So at first glance, everybody will say, overpay, guy sucks. Can't believe they gave him that much money, blah, blah, blah.
And that would be right.
Awful deal. Yeah, exactly. For all the trolls. But when you break it down,
okay,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
He is the 7th highest paid QB in the league. He's not the first. That's Dak. Dak's
Right.
at 60. Brock Purdy is now slotted right at Jared Goff. I would say
Okay.
both those quarterbacks about the same. All right.
And as time passes, he might become the 8th and then 9th and then 10th highest paid quarterback.
Over 3 years from now, as long as Purdy stays healthy and continues to stay good and but hopefully get better, like that deal's going to look better.
Yeah, I agree.
Because he'll be,
The
like you
12th
said, 10th, 11th, 12th highest
I
QB
agree.
in the league, and it's not going to be near the top.
Yep.
So that's the first thing. The $181 million guaranteed, it's a lot. Going right for a quarterback, it's going to be a lot. This places him at the 8th spot.
In terms of guaranteed money for a quarterback?
And guaranteed money, 8th most money guaranteed for QBs. So, like, when you look at the deal,
it's good perspective.
On surface, if you're just looking at it and you're just a troll, then you think it's the worst deal in the history of football. But when you look at the going rate for quarterbacks nowadays, it slots him in, I think, exactly where you would slot him in. Tua still paid more than him, and I think he's a better quarterback than Tua. Trevor Lawrence has paid more than him. I think he's a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. And Jared Goff and him are neck and neck, but Jared Goff has more money guaranteed on his deal.
Yeah, it seems, to your point, like when you see these numbers, it actually does kind of seem reasonable. I think people get immediately carried away with the dollar figures, like, oh my gosh, how could you give Brock Purdy that kind of money? It has nothing to do with Brock Purdy and everything to do with the position.
Yeah.
If you're going to play the position long-term in the NFL, you're going to be paid handsomely. And Purdy, like you said, is the latest in a long line of quarterbacks that are going to be paid handsomely, because that's what the job is. If you're going to be a 5-year starter in the NFL, you're going to make like Brock Purdy makes, by and large. By the way, it's deserved. I mean, he played in the Super Bowl. They're coming off a down year, but the expectations, you'll hear from Cynthia coming up in 10 minutes, the expectations are they're going to rebound and be better. They have the schedule that they can capitalize on. It is fair. I mean, what other option did they have? I always say that.
Right.
What would people prefer? Would Niners fans prefer, you know what? Let's let them walk, and then eventually let's go find some also-ran veteran, or let's go draft and develop someone. What other option do you really have?
You don't have an option.
That's kind of how football works, right?
And I think, Kyle Shanahan knows more football than
we do.
Yeah.
And trolls do.
the trolls and guys like Nick Wright. And
what's Nick Wright say about the deal?
He probably is going to rip it to shreds. But what Brock Purdy's accomplished in his first 3 seasons,
It's been very good. I know.
He has the most talent around him, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, isn't that the point of like sports? Isn't that the point of football, to get the best players around your quarterback? I've always said this. Do you want the 49ers to just like have nobody? Now, they didn't have anybody last year, and they weren't good.
Yep.
But that's like the whole thing is football is a team sport. Yes, there are some quarterbacks that transcend that. And I agree. Brock Purdy's not as good as Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Like,
that's very few people are.
Right. Those are the top elite quarterbacks in the league. But if Justin Herbert's the greatest quarterback ever, then why has he won?
Yeah.
You're
right. I mean, one of the best skill sets of a quarterback is to be the quarterback of a winning team. I mean, you can have the gaudiest stats in the world. Maybe Herbert, you would know better than I would. Maybe Herbert has had better stats over the last 3 years than Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I think so.
But would Charger fans have preferred to play in a Super Bowl within the last 3 years? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah. So
You
look,
know.
I can already see it now. I can already hear it, and I don't care because
I wouldn't either.
the thing is, he is not. I would be upset today if they gave him a contract
Made him the
that was
richest.
the highest paid quarterback in the league. That would be a problem.
What would that be? You said so. Dak's getting 60 per year.
60 per year. I don't know what his guarantees are,
Right.
but when you look at Brock's guarantees, it's the 8th highest or the 8th most. And as far as AAV goes, he's slotted at 7th along with Jared Goff.
Completely fair. What was he supposed to be? 16th? That's not fair. And what was he supposed to be? To your point, first.
Yeah.
That's not fair. He's
Right.
somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between. And so also like little inside baseball here.
Yeah.
The 49ers the other day, kind of savvy. They sold 6% of their franchise.
Yeah, at a valuation of like over $8 billion, right?
Yeah. So it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense why they're selling part of the franchise because the Yorks own 100% of it
Until this sale.
Right. So until this sale.
Yeah.
Or they did. I know. And so they sold the 6% and they signed Kittle.
Wow.
They signed Brock. Like they
like with that liquidity,
Yeah,
like with extra
yeah.
money coming in.
So look, again, is Brock Purdy the best quarterback in the league? No, he's not. Is Brock Purdy a top 10, 11 quarterback in the league? Yeah, he is. And given the talent around him, he has shown that he can manage a team to a Super Bowl. Now, obviously, he didn't win the Super Bowl. You know, like if the right tackle, if the right guard would have blocked Chris Jones, then maybe they do win the Super Bowl.
If they didn't have a freak injury on defense to start the game.
If Dre Greenlaw doesn't tear his Achilles running on the field,
yeah,
you know, ifs, ands, or buts, it's all hypotheticals. But still, Brock Purdy in his first, 3 seasons in the league, or first 4 seasons in the league, right? 4, 3? No, 3. 2 NFC title games, a Super Bowl, and he's already made 2 Pro Bowls.
I don't see any other option for the Niners. And by the way, there's a very good chance he's playing in a second round postseason game this year, because with that schedule, if they win 10 or 11 games, I mean, they could absolutely make it out of a wild card round. They might be hosting a playoff game. I mean, yeah, he's won. So he's earned it. Yes, there'll be a lot of controversy over it. For whatever reason, he's been so polarizing. Like, it's not because of him. It's because of people's opinions of him.
Because people don't want to accept the fact that a 7th round quarterback,
just some guy.
Yeah, that he can be a good football player.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I already see in the chat.
Yeah.
Purdy's not a good QB. Okay.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. It's a fair deal. It's a fair deal, and he's probably going to continue to win at a good level. We'll talk to Cynthia Freeland on the other side, NFL Network, on the NFL schedule release. Plus, at 5 p.m., Kevin Acey, our Padres Insider. It's Sean and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, this update's brought to you by the Jim Patrol Real Estate Team. Padres and Mariners start a 3-game series. The Vetter Cup tonight at Petco Park, 6:40 first pitch. Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres. Moving over to NFL news of the day, Brock Purdy and the Niners have agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract, $53 million a year, making him the 7th highest QB in the league. San Diego FC, they take on Kansas City tomorrow night at Snapdragon Stadium. 7:30 kickoff, 7 p.m. pregame. That's when our coverage starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. And tonight, NBA action, Game 6 between the Knicks and Celtics. Knicks looking to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, while the Celtics trying to force a Game 7. Would you like to know what your home would sell for today? Get a simple text message with your home's value by texting your address to 855-600-6000. You'll get no phone call, just a text. Jim Patrol is the buyer. Simply text your address to 855-600-6000.
All right, Kevin AC coming up at 5 p.m. We're getting you ready for Padres baseball, but we had a really good conversation a day ago with Cynthia Freeland from the NFL Network, friend of the show, on the schedule release for 2025. And we started the conversation asking Cynthia about if she could pick just one game to watch in the regular season in 2025. What game would that be and why? Take a listen.
I mean, I until it's not a thing, it's a thing. Is there a better matchup than the Bills and the Chiefs, especially at the last Highmark, the farewell tour to Highmark? We get Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. It's 5-4, the all-time series between the two. The Bills always win it in the regular season. We see the Chiefs win it in the postseason. It's week 9, which means that O-line should be remade. I just feel like great quarterback play never gets old.
Yeah, there's some marquee matchups, and Thanksgiving Chiefs and Cowboys we talked about it. Like, that's probably going to be the most watched regular season game maybe in the history of the NFL. Would you agree with that?
I mean, it certainly seems like, it depends on how bad the Cowboys are.
True, yeah. But it is the Cowboys. It's Thanksgiving. I mean, last year they weren't good and they still drew some massive numbers. So.
I know. The Cowboys fans are really faithful, amazing fans, and they stay really true to their team. But I don't know. Like, I hope they're at least a little more interesting. I don't know. That was not a lovely thing to watch last year. So this year, hopefully they'll be a little better.
Yeah, that's what the NFL is hoping for, is the Cowboys are actually good, and obviously the Chiefs be good as well. Of all these schedule release videos, Cynthia, do you have a favorite?
I mean, I have to say, like, the Jags with that guy, like, who he's like getting ready guy. I mean, good God, that guy is such a lunatic, and I wonder if he kind of realizes they're poking fun at him. I kind of hope that he's like he's in on the joke. But either way, I was like, oh wow, that's a really good one. That was really funny.
There were a lot of really good ones, and there always are, and the teams have really done a remarkable job at that.
Oh, yeah.
Which will actually bring me to my next question, because one of the things that has made the Chargers stand out since moving is their social media team. They've caught some other flack here locally, but their social media team has done a really good job.
So great.
Are we possibly at a point where, and maybe this is a dumb question, so tell me if it's dumb. Are we at a point where the Chargers can vie for that division or not?
It's a dumb question.
No, it's definitely not a dumb question. To me, their schedule is the easiest in all the AFC West. I think that, it's never easy when it's never going to be easy when Patrick Mahomes is in your division. And it's never going to be easy when all of a sudden, the Broncos, you have to, whether you love Sean Payton or not, you have to give him credit for figuring out the puzzle piece that was rookie Bo Nix last year to make the playoffs. Like, it's not an easy division. And I think, though, that schedule-wise, they really did win in terms of, what could have possibly happened. I think the Chargers have the best schedule kind of that they could have.
Speaking of strength of schedules, we were talking about this earlier today, Cynthia. The 49ers have the, on paper, easiest strength of schedule. They're going through changes, but they still have their core coming back. If they have a healthy Christian McCaffrey, a healthy Trent Williams, we'll see what these draft picks turn into. But are you on the side of like 10 wins minimum for this team next year? If that doesn't happen, something went wrong.
Well, if that doesn't happen, it means Christian McCaffrey didn't come back.
Right.
Or, something where you're really missing a big part of what makes this team the core of the team. So I'm looking at this team and I'm thinking, just the fact you play the entire NFC South, You play the entire AFC South. If the NFC West in general isn't really, really strong, then there's going to be like heads will roll. That's the first thing. The second thing that I'm looking at when it comes to all these teams is like the three unique people that they get to play. I mean, they get the Browns where the Rams have to do the Ravens. They get, the Bears, which maybe the Bears will be better, but I'd rather play them than the Lions. And it's like, it's just such a more favorable, and then they get the Giants compared to the Eagles. Like, come on now. So if they don't win at least 10, again, it probably means Christian McCaffrey was not available.
Right.
Something happened there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they should win 17 with that schedule.
Stop. Don't.
Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network, with us right now. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. More likely, in your opinion, Cynthia, with the Commanders, step forward or step backward?
Can we go with both? Let's start with a step backwards and then we take a step forwards. I think a lot of times you have to remember with second season quarterbacks and second season kind of situations with that entire play calling situation, people now will have their defense keyed in on exactly what Jaden Daniels does so well. So if you're looking at kind of, I'm not saying like, look, what happened with CJ Stroud, there's more to it. I think he'll take a step forward this season. I think there was something weird with Bobby Slowick. He's now gone, et cetera. But I still think when it comes to getting used to the NFL, when teams and good defenses, and the Eagles are a good defense in their own division, just as one, the Cowboys have some nasty pass rushers, et cetera. When they're now keying in on you, it takes a minute to kind of readjust to what you're being asked to do. So while I don't think it's going to be like, I think he's great and I think we're going to see him continue to grow, I think we need to calm down if week 1 or week 2 doesn't look super awesome and then like regroup after letting him get reused to how the NFL works. Because again, he didn't see last year teams with defensive plans that were really respecting the things he could do because to be fair, no one knew what he could do necessarily.
How surprised were you with the fall of Shedeur Sanders in the draft?
It was interesting because being there in Green Bay and being kind of a part of the action, you didn't feel it in the same way as the TV. I think a lot of what happened was, the draft is a long thing, and when you're watching on TV, it's just different. I think, I would imagine some of the teams that would have been more in the running for him had they believed he would be available, like perhaps the Giants would have thought it through differently. And if they didn't think he would already, they wanted Jackson Dart. Okay, we're going to trade back up for this because they probably thought, well, unless we could get X, Y, or Z, we're not going to get Shedeur. So I just think, you have to remember that there's this part about humans where if you're going to potentially, if you need a quarterback, it's probably not the case that your team is very strong. Mm-hmm. So you're sitting there being like, hey, like, all right, if the Giants, who have a nightmare of a schedule, if I'm the Giants, do I want to have Dion there who is a proven coach that could take my job, or do I want to try to work it out with a guy who maybe would be easier for me to teach and coach, considering Shedeur he's only really had one coach his whole kind of experiment with football. So it didn't feel as crazy in person. But, I saw all the stuff from people with like wildly hot takes on it. Right, and so I'm aware that was going on, but it didn't feel that like, it felt more like, all right, like kind of, business decision. Like it didn't feel as crazy if you didn't have people kind of hyping you up and turning it into a narrative.
Do you think it's a good spot for him? I know it's the Browns, but do you think it's a good landing spot for Shedeur?
Yes and no. Their O-line needs help, and it's not like Shedeur's used to having a good O-line. Like, let's put it that way. But I still think no one, no matter who you are in college, it really helps if you have a decent O-line at the next level. And I don't know what kind of, how are they going to do this rotation? I don't know if I think, sometimes that quarterback room is weird.
Yeah. Very weird.
Very different styles of players. Like, I don't know it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds, but I think he'll get I think Shedeur he will get some sort of chance if it's not necessarily week one, whatever. But I don't think we have heard the end of this story. I think this story has a different ending than, he gets onto the team and no 5th round pick is guaranteed to make the team. We know that. And then he doesn't make the team. I just don't think that's what happens. I think we see there's more drama to come. I'm just not entirely sure how it all plays out.
There's no doubt. Cynthia Freeland with the NFL Network with us right now. John and Jim, speaking of the draft, I think we had you on before, but we didn't have you on afterwards. Is there a team or two that you think had a particularly good draft overall?
I mean, I thought that the Seahawks really changed a lot about their future in smart ways. I think they complemented Sam Darnold really well between free agency and adding in the draft. Maybe that's not sexy, but I thought they did a really nice job. And especially you're playing in the West, like that's not an easy division. I mean, I told you the schedule is easy, but it doesn't mean that the other teams in your own division are easy. I also thought, when some of it's about how these people turn out. Like to me, everyone was mad at the Falcons again, and I'm like, well, if James Pierce Jr. turns out to be a good pass rusher, then maybe it was worth giving up a lot for. I don't know, right? Like the trade-off has to be like who they become. And I thought that could have been very good. And, I kind of always, some people didn't think it was a good pick, but I thought the Broncos getting a really great corner made the Broncos better too. I mean, you already have this defensive player of the year, and now you're adding to one of the nastiest, if not the nastiest defense. Like I thought that was good. I also thought the Bills had a nice draft. So, I mean, a lot of things were nice. We'll have to see who, this is a weird draft class. I could even say the Cowboys had a nice draft, but I don't know. It all depends on, at this point, like now what's the opportunity moving forward? We'll see. We'll see how these linemen work out.
Yeah. And on the flip side, what teams maybe left scratching your head here, like not understanding what they might be doing? I'm not saying like give grades or whatever, but like just from a positional standpoint and drafting guys that maybe they didn't really need or position out of need. Like what teams left you're scratching your head?
I thought the Lions, my hometown team, I thought that was a bit of a reach in round one. I know there weren't a lot of like the way you feel about defensive tackles can be what it is, but sometimes I'm like, is it just because you guys like aren't used to drafting this late? Like usually you're picking number like 3 overall, like whatever. So that was a little odd to me. I also thought I was a little like confused with some of the pick, not necessarily the Packers' first pick. Okay, they, first time they've had a wide receiver since 2003, but if you're really having issues with potentially bringing back your star corner, maybe that's something you look to shore up with because Jair Alexander, it doesn't feel like he's in a great. I don't know. So I mean, they obviously know more than me, but I just was like, all right, well, are you getting something nice to have or something that you need to have?
I like to get things that are nice to have, truthfully.
Yeah, well, that's different between
So does my 6-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, you really need it.
When your 6-year-old's not running
either
the
way,
joints.
right?
Yeah, he's got like 700 Matchbox cars. Do we really need more? Maybe we should get a Hot Wheels, is what I'm thinking. Yeah. And maybe the Lions should be doing that.
Probably.
Yeah. Cynthia, we always appreciate your time. Hope you have a great spring and summer, and we look forward to catching up again soon, all right?
Yeah, I think we've got 112 days until the season starts.
But who's counting? Who's counting?
112. Right? I love that. It'll be here before we know it.
I had to leave you with a number. I couldn't come on here and not have some big wowing number for you.
That's a good number.
That's a
Cowboys,
great number.
Eagles, then Chiefs, Chargers, then week 1.
There we go.
We're pumped. Thanks,
Okay.
Cynthia.
Have a great one, guys.
Great stuff from Cynthia Freeland. All right, great to connect again on the 2025 schedule with our NFL Network insider, Cynthia Freeland. We hope to hear from Mike Schild at any point here. So we'll bring that Mike Schild pregame sound coming up as soon as we can. Plus the wrap is coming up. Plus Kevin Acee from Petco Park at 5 p.m. This is John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. A reminder this weekend, San Diego Sports 760 is live coverage of the PGA Championship. Rounds 3 and 4 beginning at 11 a.m. tomorrow and Sunday. We'll have the wrap coming up. Kevin Acey will join us at 5 p.m. We will hear from Mike Schill.
This is the most anticipated pregame scrum of the year for me.
Because of the Vetter Cup. Now, former colleague, although friend, Marty Caswell, reporting from down at Petco saying that she perused the Padres clubhouse and listened to Mike Schill pregame. And so far, 0 Padres can name a Pearl Jam song. This is per Marty on social media. I don't know if that's a prerequisite to play in the Vetter Cup, knowing Pearl Jam songs or not.
No, but I bet you there's a lot of these players that are thinking to themselves, what's the Vetter Cup?
Yeah, it's over our head.
Oh, way over it.
Yeah. I always say that with athletes, by the way. We're like, hey man, like this, you're playing in this big series. Remember like the 98 wild card? They're like, what? Like I got here like this offseason. I don't know the history of the Seattle Mariners because I signed with the Mariners.
While I do love the fact that there's a charity component and aspect to this.
Yeah, that's a positive.
That's a huge positive. This is the dumbest, most contrived thing that you will ever find in any sport.
Do you think the way baseball is, my guess is if we have this conversation again in 25 years, it still exists. It's still nobody cares.
No, nobody cares.
Do you think it'll end like this is going to be like a 2-year thing, or there'll be like an end date on this?
This might be a 1 year.
1 year thing.
Like just get it over with.
Just do it.
Just do it. It's crazy how this came about because of social media from a couple beat writers that were joking when the Padres and the Mariners would play back in the day that it would be known as the Vetter Cup because Eddie Vedder used to live in San Diego and Seattle.
And what's also crazy is that Major League Baseball, when interleague play came to be, they had to tie teams together.
Yeah.
And they would put like, the Phillies and the Orioles because they're regionally close. But of course, the Yankees and the Mets because they're in the same city, or the A's and the Giants because they're both in the Bay Area or were. And then they had to be like, there were a couple outliers like Seattle and San Diego. You guys square off. Like, well, there's no real reason for them to square off, but everyone's got to play someone, so that's how it started. And you're going all the way back to the 90s. For that. So they've played a lot. I mean, they've played a lot over the years.
And they share the complex with each other in Peoria. If anything, just make this a spring training thing.
Play the games in Peoria. Love that.
Like, no, I meant like in spring training, make that be the Vetter Cup.
You want to have Yuli Gurriel determine the winner of the Vetter Cup or Ryan Bergert?
No, just have if you're playing 3 times in spring or whatever, or just have a weekend where you play twice. And I don't know.
Here's what I would do. If I was actually doing this, the fact that I'm actually contemplating this is scary, but we have a 4-hour show. If I was actually doing this, the only way to make this work is to have a 3-game baseball series, because then there's a winner and a loser.
Yeah.
A 6-game season series is irrelevant. You can't do it because the idea of tying 3-3 with something, you can't tell me someone won when something is tied 3-3.
Yeah.
Because of exit velocity.
And it makes it even worse and even dumber when you find out that Eddie Vedder is a huge Cubs fan.
That is a little off.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Again, like I said, it's the dumbest, most contrived thing in sports is this Vetter Cup. It's cute. It's whatever. Are
there special patches or hats for this?
They got the huge on the scoreboard down there. They have the huge Vetter Cup sign on the scoreboard down there.
Right. And the logo, the Vetter Cup logo, looks like a guitar pick.
It's a cool logo.
It's shaped like a guitar pick.
I think the trophy looks pretty cool. It's like a
guitar itself. Yeah.
Again.
I'm all for it if they win. If they don't win, I think it's the dumbest thing ever.
It's the stop trying to make fetch a thing. Stop trying to make the Vetter Cup a thing. It's not.
Who is fetch? I just haven't cared to care.
I know you don't care. So.
Does anyone care?
You ever seen the movie Mean Girls?
I don't. I've heard of it. It's about Mean Girls.
Yes, yeah.
What's that have to do with fetch?
That's in the movie. In the movie, one of the girls is like, "That's so fetch," and then the mean girl looks over and she goes, "Stop trying to make fetch a thing. It will never be a thing."
So you were saying that from a movie perspective or the person fetch?
Oh my gosh.
There's no person.
No person. It's like a saying.
I thought there's a person.
It's like if you're trying to start a lingo or a new term and you're trying to speak it into existence.
There's not a person called fetch on social.
Like the term Riz, right? You've heard the kids say that Riz. Like your Riz is great today. I don't even know how to use it, but the saying would be like, stop trying to make Riz a thing. It's not a thing.
Do I sound like a mid 40-year-old dad?
Yes, we both do. Even
But
though
you're
I'm not
not
40.
mid 40 and you're not a dad.
I'm not neither of those things. But
Congrats.
my point was, don't stop trying to make the Vetter Cup a thing. It's not a thing, even though it is a thing now. And there's a trophy attached to it. Mike Schildt's fired up for it. And I can't wait to hear from Mike Schildt. But it's not a thing. It never will be a thing. So stop trying to make it a thing, even though it's a thing.
Who's Speed?
ISO Speed.
There's some guy named Speed.
Yeah. Why? You asked
I don't know. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. All right. On the other side, we're going to get to the wrap. We'll hear from Mike Schildt. Kevin Acee will join us at 5 p.m. We've got a giveaway for you today as well. Hour 3 of John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app is next. All right, hey guys, it is John and Jim again for the all-new Humul Casino Resort, the Players Place. A great time to get out there is this weekend, and then they've got Monday Night Live coming up for a chance to win a Ford Mustang Mach-E, brand new. You can win those every Monday in May. You can earn entries all month long just by playing, and on Tuesdays you can earn 2 times the entries.
And catch the action at Tony Gwynn Sports Pub. Watch the Padres, hockey, and basketball playoffs live. Plus, have savory bites at Tony Gwynn Sports Pub, where fandom meets fantastic.
So there's a ton going on, again, each and every week right now out at Humul Casino. And again, Monday Night Live going on Monday night for those chances to win Ford Mustangs, Mach-E's, incredibly every Monday night at Humul Casino Resort, the Players Place.
This update is brought to you by Superstar Car Wash. Padres and Mariners start a 3-game series tonight at Petco Park. 6:40 first pitch. Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres. We'll hear Mike Schultz's thoughts on the series coming up here in the next hour. Tomorrow night, SDFC takes on Kansas City. 7:30 start time. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. The Niners and Brock Purdy agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract extension. He's getting paid $53 million per year, 7th most among quarterbacks in the league. And tonight, NBA action, Game 6, Knicks versus Celtics. Knicks looking to advance the Eastern Conference Finals, while the Celtics are trying to force a Game 7. If you know, you go at Superstar Car Wash. They're proud to have over 550,000 members. Be in the know and try what everyone loves today. Text Super CA to 27800 to get a free Super Protect car wash. Terms and conditions apply.
It's John and Jim to warm up that drive home.
The Padres will try to bring back either Dylan Cease or Michael King, with King being the primary target. Obviously, that is massive reporting if accurate, and that will be a huge, huge shot in the arm for the organization.
I've wanted to hear that the Padres are hopeful of bringing one of these guys back, and also that they kind of prefer Michael King.
Now, time for John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 3 of John and Jim. This hour, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Simple Minds next Saturday, May 24th at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. We'll get to the wrap in a moment. We'll hear from Mike Schultz coming up this hour. Kevin Acee will join us at 5 p.m. And I did want to note real quickly, you just actually mentioned it, San Diego State announcing the commitment of a running back that actually spent 2 years at Oregon before transferring to Cal, where I think he was hurt a little bit. He's a San Diegan. Byron Cardwell, who had a couple of good years at Oregon before some injuries, didn't play a ton at Cal, but Byron Cardwell, San Diegan, coming back home via the transfer portal to Sean Lewis and San Diego State.
Is he better than Marshall Faulk?
That would probably be a pretty tall order. Will he rush for 2,000 yards this season or like set the all-time single game rushing mark this year? I don't know.
Like, is he a mix between Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey?
I don't know that. But if he is, that would be a huge win.
I'm going to say yes.
You're going to say yeah.
I've not watched one single play, but I'm going to say yes.
We should ask Jonathan Rifkin, because he was an Oregon Duck for 2 years.
Okay.
So we'll have to get Jonathan on at 6:01 p.m.
Yeah, I like that idea.
We'll get Jonathan on.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin Acee is going to join us coming up at 5 p.m. But right now, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Would you guys rather the Padres win the Vetter Cup or the season series against the Doyers?
Let's see here. I definitely would love if they won the Vetter Cup over the season series against the Dodgers. Absolutely. This Vetter Cup is everything. If they do not win the Vetter Cup, then the season is essentially over, in my opinion.
It's funny. I disagree.
Just a little?
I prefer to win the season series over the Dodgers, believe it or not. Than the Vetter Cup over the Mariners.
I would agree with you.
Yeah. Well, of course, we're kidding. The other thing about the Dodgers series is, you're going to play 13 games against the Dodgers, and it's obviously way more impactful in division than it is this Mariners series. Listen, I'll take the trophy. Hopefully they'll win that trophy, and hopefully they'll take the season series from LA. They did in the regular season last year.
You think if they win the trophy, Manny Machado is going to take it and run around the ballpark so all the fans can see it and they can...
No, because they'll be in Seattle if they win it.
Right.
Secondly, here's my question with the trophy. Do you pretend like you're a true rock star and just slam that thing into the ground like they do with guitars on stage?
That'd be amazing.
Just smash that thing.
Do you think any player cares one bit?
Do you think anyone knew before today what they were getting into? You know what I mean? Do you think they were talking about this or were aware of it 11 days ago?
0.0%.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, yes. Whatever.
Dodgers.
Next question.
Do the Knicks win tonight or do the Celtics force a Game 7?
The Knicks better win tonight.
I think they will.
If they don't, they're screwed.
They better win tonight. I want to see Knicks Pacers Eastern Conference Finals. I've already had that's already like made up in my mind. That's what I want to see.
Mhm.
I think it's the most drama. That's what I want.
Right.
So I'm gonna go with Knicks tonight in a close game over the Celtics, because if the Celtics win tonight, then guess what? The Knicks are going to be really in trouble here. And I think that they're not going to win game 7.
They'll lose the series if they lose tonight. The Knicks. I agree with you. I think the Knicks are a close one. They're only favored by 2.5. So Vegas is telling us expect a really good game 6 of the Garden tonight, even with Jason Tatum out. But I'm with you. I think the Knicks in a tight one know that if they don't get it done tonight, they're not going to get it done. I'll say the Knicks in a tight one tonight as well. Next question.
Will Caitlin Clark be the WNBA MVP this season?
Probably.
I would assume she'd be the favorite heading into year 2. Asia Wilson won it last year.
Right. I'll just say yes.
Would you think that she would be the favorite heading into her second year? You know what I mean? Like, you got your rookie season's out of the way.
She's already one of the best players in the league.
Definitely. Remember they got off to that slow start last year? We talked about that.
But she also played so much basketball from that point.
Good point. The whole college year.
And once they had the Olympic break and then they came back, she was phenomenal because she actually got to have a month and a half, 2 months off.
She is the favorite, plus 200. Asia Wilson is the second favorite at plus 225.
You hear Colin's take today about the WNBA?
Yeah. And I kind of agree with it. The idea that if you didn't pay attention to the WNBA before Caitlin Clark, that that's a poor reflection on you. Colin was like, no, I didn't pay attention to it because it wasn't as entertaining as it now is.
He said that if you're one of those people out there that said that you watched the WNBA before Caitlin Clark, then you're a loser.
He's like, you just didn't have a social life.
You didn't have a life.
He's like, I'll admit that I watch it now because I find the product to be much more entertaining now.
Right.
It couldn't compel me until now. I mean, I think it's an interesting take. And listen, the ratings for the WNBA this weekend, their opening weekend, I believe, of the season, are going to be really big. So WNBA has been resonating, like women's college basketball has been resonating. Caitlin Clark is a big reason, obviously, as to why. Next question.
How much did the 49ers overpay for Brock Purdy?
How much did the 49ers overpay?
Oh, I mean, did they overpay for
okay. So when Caleb Williams
Freudian slip there.
When Caleb Williams gets 57,
they already overpaid for him.
Yeah, when they get $57 million, the Bears give Caleb Williams that much money.
It might be more.
Maybe more than that.
Time they have to extend them out.
They paid a slot price for him. That's what it is. In the NFL draft, you get drafted 1 overall. You're slotted this amount of money. Same thing with number 2, number 3, number 4. You are slotted that amount of money. So what they did was exactly what you do now is you didn't overpay here because you slot him in a certain spot, which is the 7th highest paid QB in the league. It's what the going rate is for a quarterback, whether you like it or not. There was no way with what Brock Purdy has done in his tenure with the 49ers that he was going to get anything less than $50 million guaranteed or $50 million per year. And so, it's exactly where I expected him to pay. And it's the going rate for a quarterback, whether you like it or not.
The hot take is there should be no hot take here. What else would any NFL fan have expected? What would have been if where people could have had hot takes is if he surpassed Dak Prescott and became the highest paid quarterback.
That would have been a problem.
There's the hot take. Or let's say he made only, I'm making this up, $37 million this year. Like, wait, they just paid Brock Purdy 5 years, $160. That makes him like the 23rd highest paid quarterback. That would have elicited hot takes. When he's slotted appropriately, to your point, there's nothing hot about it. It just kind of is what goes on with quarterbacks in the NFL that get extensions.
There's certain quarterbacks like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield that are getting paid less than Brock Purdy, but also they have not accomplished what Brock Purdy has accomplished, even though they might have put up some better numbers this past year. And I think that Sam Darnold, jury's going to be still out to see if he can take what he did in Minnesota and translate that to Seattle. I think Baker Mayfield has found a home and found a really good spot for him in Tampa. But the facts are, like, guess what? They haven't accomplished what Brock has
And
accomplished.
those are different. Like there's a little bit of a late blooming fail to succeed element, not a little bit, to both of those quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They fell on their face, got back up, and are having success middle of their career, where Purdy just took it and ran with it from day one. When you get a job after getting drafted and you become a franchise or starting quarterback, this is the going rate. And like Baker Mayfield he wasn't that quarterback initially. Maybe he is now.
And if Baker Mayfield was on the 49ers and he did the exact same things that Brock Purdy has done, then okay, then guess what? Baker Mayfield's going to get paid just like Brock Purdy would have got paid.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't live in hypotheticals. It is what it is. Now, if you want to throw in a hypothetical out there, we're talking about it during the break. Imagine that Trey Lance wasn't a bust. And he put together the exact same stats as Brock Purdy. And they did exactly what Brock Purdy has done as the quarterback. So you have Trey Lance take the Niners to 2 NFC title games and a Super Bowl. Like same numbers, just replace Brock Purdy with Trey Lance. And if that were the case, they would say today that's a steal of a deal. If Trey Lance,
that's a good point,
would have gotten the same deal as Brock Purdy. But now,
definitely,
because it's Brock Purdy, you got everybody that's a troll saying it's an overpay.
By the way, switching gears for a moment, and we'll hear from Mike Schilt when we have the opportunity to get the sound. Juan Soto is having his return to the Bronx. I mean, he spent 1 year, obviously, with the Yankees and helped guide them to a World Series. And it's a complete sellout, obviously, for Subway Series at Yankee Stadium on a Friday night.
These hats are stupid, by the way. This is ridiculous. Whatever.
Anyway, he did a tip of his helmet to the crowd. I haven't heard what it sounded like, but it appears as if there was a good amount of ovation for Juan Soto. I'm watching it. I mean, fans came to their feet. It's a lot of Yankees and Mets fans in the crowd. But if you watch Juan Soto, who spent a year as a Yankee, he stepped out of the batter's box and thanked the crowd with a tip of his helmet tonight at Yankee Stadium.
Okay. Do you think there's a lot of Mets fans there?
There's a ton of Mets fans there, and there's a ton of Yankees fans there. I'm curious to hear what that sounded like. My guess is a combination between cheers and boos
Probably,
tonight for Juan Soto. But again, there's a lot of Mets fans and Yankees fans in the building tonight.
They're wearing the hats because it's Armed Forces Day tomorrow.
I know it is, but isn't next weekend Memorial Day weekend?
It is. I know the Padres are wearing
days.
Memorial Day, or excuse me, I don't know. They're wearing this theme hat all 3 days this weekend. A Friday and Saturday, and then their normal Sunday look that they always wear at Petco Park. All right, on the other side, we hope to hear from Mike Schilt coming up on the other side, plus Kevin Acey, our Padres insider, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. Also this hour, your chance to win those tickets to see Simple Minds with Soft Cell and Modern English, Saturday, May 24th at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. It's John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. What makes the Soto thing interesting with him tipping the cap is because he was being booed.
Yeah.
At Yankee Stadium, which makes sense because I think a lot of Yankees fans thought when they landed him, he'd be there for a long time. And he goes cross town to the Mets. That's not going to be received well by Yankee fans. So Soto back in the Bronx as a Met, tipping his cap to the Yankee fans who are booing him tonight at Yankee Stadium. Brian, can you cue this up and see where it starts with Mike Schilt? Because we do have the pregame audio from Mike Schilt with the media as this Padres Mariners series will get underway tonight at 6:40.
Better start with the Vetter Cup.
I would guess that's the first question, or it's about tonight's starter. Who's starting tonight?
Stephen Kolek.
So maybe it's about Stephen Kolek.
Potentially.
Maybe it's about the Vetter Cup.
Can you name a Pearl Jam song, Mike Schilt?
That'll probably come up in there as well.
You'll probably say no.
Right.
I'm sure questions about Darvish will come up.
Yeah,
But,
that makes sense too.
I just hope that this majority of this conversation has to do with him talking about the Vetter Cup.
All right, where does this start, Brian?
Well, naturally, Stephen Kolek.
Okay, it is
Oh,
Kolek.
okay.
Okay, so let's hear from Mike Schilt. Again, pregame conversation with the media as the Padres get ready for the Mariners.
Yeah, Steven's done the ball really, really well. His transition clearly taken to the starting role again. He started in the minors, but, harder to maybe prove that up here, but he's definitely on the right path to proving that. He's thrown the ball extremely well and excited for him to pitch tonight.
Brandon Lockridge against the right-hander again. What have you liked about what Brandon Lockridge brings when he's in there?
Lock can beat you a lot of different ways. You think about it, you can do it with the bat, which he's done. He's been able to do the short game. He's got some bunts down and big knock the other night to expand the lead and, give us some breathing room late. And then he's also played really good defense, and he's an aggressive and also smart base runner. So he's got a chance to help you in a lot of different ways.
You, Darvish, went to rehab outing in Las Vegas on Wednesday. What's the latest on you after that?
Day off yesterday. I think he took mostly advantage of that as well, and we're seeing how he shows up today and how he feels.
Vetter Cup against the Mariners beginning tonight. You a big Pearl Jam guy?
I respect the music. I listen to it. I can't, like I said, I don't have any posters, but I think it's great to have competition, but every night's a competition.
After perusing your clubhouse letters, your players and sing the Pearl Jam song, can you rise to the occasion?
No, I cannot. I cannot rise to the occasion. I'm more of I just like the music, but I don't know who many of the artists are.
Have you ever seen them live?
I've not seen them live, no.
It is something like this, kind of the Vetter Cup, kind of quote unquote made up kind of thing in the middle of the year. Can it still be kind of fun to throw some out there, maybe add a little bit of excitement, maybe in the fans, maybe the dugout a little bit?
Yeah, I think anything, you play for something that matters. But kind of alluding to the question earlier, we're going to look to win a series, and that'll help us win the Vetter Cup. And we're excited about that, and that'd be great. That's something to play for, and I think that's great. But we're looking to win every series. So, I think it's good to have something that is cool, and I like the idea of the connection between it. If we're going to do a rivalry, weekend, let's do something that we can compete for.
Why no Hayward the last couple of nights against those right-handed pitchers?
Well, we gave Lockridge a shot at it the other day. Not an overly splitty guy today, and Locke took advantage of the opportunity, and we'll play it game by game. I wouldn't read much more into it than just that.
With everybody healthy, we've seen the length of your lineup and what it can do. Do you look at that and kind of go, when we're all clicking on all cylinders, like this is how dangerous our offense can really be when we have all our pieces?
Absolutely. Listen, AJ put the team together for a reason. He put a good team together, and we want, when they're healthy, it's the best version of our team, and it's on display when they're all in the lineup. And so, absolutely thrilled when they're all in there. And if they're not, whether it's a day off or some other reason, we figure out that too. That's how this all works.
Can you notice maturation of some of the guys here with everything they've gone through in the last few years?
I think there's maturation with anybody that's got growth mindset, and our players have a growth mindset. The one thing that has worked really well for us that I believe in is, everybody's bought into and believes in as well, is just constantly getting better, being better as the game goes, being better as the series goes, being better as the season goes. And if you look at people that have had long careers, and I've been blessed to be around a lot of players with that kind of those type careers where they played 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 18, 20 years in the game. The commonality with conversations of them, regardless of the stage of their career they are in, but also including the middle towards the end of their careers, has been the curiosity to improve, the strong desire and hunger to improve. And, when you have players that have that, they individually will continue to get the most out of their God-given ability. They'll play as long as they can potentially play for the most part. And then when you have a team full of them, people are going to appreciate and improve. So, and that's just how maturity works. And not everybody has it, and it's not easy. And especially when you're younger player that has a lot thrust upon you.
What do you see in Tatis? Everything that he went through early in his career. When I first saw him in the minor leagues when he was 19, so that now he's 26. He seems to have started to get it.
I think he's always gotten it. I think it's always people's perspective of what it is. When you burst upon a scene with that kind of physical ability and that kind of success, there are people that create their own expectations. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but, it's also a process of, the game will adjust to you. There are things that take place that require adjustment. The adjustments aren't easy. And, you're doing it in a very, 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 very public view. And so, all I can tell you is I couldn't be more impressed and proud of Fernando Tatis, of how he's handled all the things that have come at him, and how he's most importantly dealt with things that have been a challenge that a lot of people would have a really hard time in a private setting, much less a very public setting at a young age. And my admiration for how he did that and has done that, especially not pointing fingers, but owning it and accepting it, and then doing something about it is, for me, is beyond special.
He says he really grew from it. He had a choice.
There's choices.
Right.
There are choices. And, he made it. He continues to make good ones.
One more on Hayward. He's been in the business long enough to know that it's about production, in this business. But do you even have to have a conversation with him as to why he's not in the lineup in certain matchups he would normally be in?
I mean, normal's relative, but and yeah, I talked to all our players about what and how they're doing, and making sure they have an open invitation to discuss anything that's on their heart. I will say that it's more about a day-to-day situation, and people talk about like production with Jason. I look at this game from my lens, from a how we beat the other team lens, as I talked earlier about Lockridge, and Jason Hayward has played really good outfield. Jason Hayward comes into this dugout, comes into that clubhouse. Effectively, this guy's been on a winning team ever since he was 8 years old, and has won the World Series. And so, for me, it's not a situation whether he hasn't started the last 2 days. He's on our team. He's contributing to our team in a lot of different ways, in a lot of ways that people understandably won't see. But I get the privilege to see. And those move our needles, help us win games. And ultimately, that's what he and we are here for.
It's so funny when a manager or a coach is asked about a player who has really underperformed or is just like awful or on his way to being DFA'd, that the default answer is to talk about that player, what he did like 10 years ago.
Or to talk about him so glowingly that it's completely unbelievable.
Right.
Like not unbelievable, like non-believable.
Like this guy helps us win ball games.
You
just
wouldn't
can't
believe
see
how many, in fact, he's helped us win more games than anyone. Like, no, he hasn't.
Like
you don't have to double down.
Yeah. I guarantee you if Jason Hayward was not in a Padres uniform, they would still have the same record.
Yeah, maybe they'd be better.
Or better.
Maybe
No.
not. I mean, if they had someone like Jerkson Profar who was, playing like 2024, they might be better.
I'm also very disappointed in Mike Schilt. Now, I'll let you know why I'm disappointed in him coming up next, but
don't leave your car.
I am thoroughly upset with Mike Schilt, and I'll give you my reason for that next.
Don't leave your car. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, so maxed out on credit cards or struggling with high interest debt, you could pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Hey guys, it is Schaefer. Get cash out now without touching your low rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a huge turnaround. Loan Pronto, instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull up front. Listen, your home equity is yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy, low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Call now to start the conversation. 619-207-4336 or loanpronto.com. 619-207-4336. Get debt relief now. Loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781 on approved credit, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
All right, this update's brought to you by Superstar Car Wash. Padres Mariners start a 3-game series tonight at Petco. 6:40 first pitch. Stephen Kolk on the mound for the Padres. SDFC takes on Kansas City tomorrow night. 7:30 start time. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. NBA action tonight. Knicks and Celtics game 6 in New York. Tip-off is at 5 p.m. Knicks looking to advance the Eastern Conference Finals while the Celtics are trying to force a game 7. And Brock Purdy and the 49ers today agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract, getting paid $53 million a year, making him the 7th highest paid QB in the league. If you know, you go at Superstar Car Wash. They're proud to have over 550,000 members. Be in the know and try what everyone loves today. Text CA to
27800 to get a free Super Protect car wash. Terms and conditions apply.
John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 here until 6. Kevin Acee will join us coming up at 5 p.m. So Jim mentioned on the way out of that last segment that he was disappointed in Mike Schilt, and I cannot wait to hear as to why.
Oh man, I was looking forward to this all day. I was actually looking forward to this all week.
Okay.
Mike Schilt's thoughts on the Vetter Cup. And I was just very underwhelmed with his responses.
Yeah, there was kind of dodged it.
There was no excitement. Now he did mention like they're looking to go out and win the series, and that would help them win the Vetter Cup. But other than that, I'm thoroughly upset and disappointed in Mike Schilt's enthusiasm level coming into the Vetter Cup series.
You know what? Actually, to Schilt's credit, because he's such like a just win a series, it's all that matters. The fact that he actually went along with the line of question for like the third or fourth, where he didn't like poo-poo it. He wasn't like it doesn't matter. He's like, well, we're going to try to win a series anyway. But yeah, to have something extra on the line, that's good too. He feels the same way we feel. He just can't say it. Right?
Yeah. All the players
feels the way we feel. He just can't say it.
And then from that standpoint, then I actually really respect Mike Schilt a lot there.
Right.
Even though I'm thoroughly disappointed in the lack of enthusiasm or fake enthusiasm that he would have, I hope that he was going to portray. You're right. He does feel like us. It's the dumbest thing ever. It's the most contrived thing ever. And nobody cares.
He just can't say it. Because how could you say that? When you're on the inside, you can't say something like that. Now, it doesn't mean he has to speak lonely on it. That's why he just kind of played it down the middle.
I love his response of, I respect his music, but then can't name a single song.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm not really sure.
Respect his music, but I don't know who he is.
It's interesting because you weren't a Pearl Jam fan, correct? Growing up?
Dude, I'm 36 now.
I know. 36 too young?
Yes.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Weren't they huge in the 90s?
Yeah, and I was like,
what year was you were born?
89.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so like I'm
their first album came out when we were like 12 or 13.
Gotcha. So okay, so if you're in your 40s like I am, they'd be a big deal.
Yes.
They were a huge deal.
Oh yeah, for us. Yeah, when we were in like middle school and high school, yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, just
now not so much.
Not my thing.
Okay. That's fine.
Not my type
I
of
would think
music.
it actually might have been Mike Schilt's thing, truthfully, with his age. Like I could see him actually being a fan.
I don't envision anybody in either clubhouses
being a huge fan,
even knowing who Eddie Vedder is. Other than
the Mariners, Seattle.
Other than maybe some of the older vets on the team.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, everyone's musical tastes are different, so it's hard to say that.
Hey, Toddy, what's your favorite Pearl Jam song?
No, it's true, but I mean, I think people have heard of Pearl Jam.
Well, the thing is, though, the whole grunge thing was known for Seattle. You know, when you mentioned the grunge music scene back then, it was like all Seattle.
This isn't some like completely like random guy.
But at the same time, I get what you're saying, Brent, but like how many of the Seattle Mariners players like grew up in Seattle? Or are they just, on the Mariners?
Yeah, no, but I assume it's probably a lot like, down here, you could walk down the street and see like a Padres mural. I kind of feel like in Seattle, they probably have Soundgarden, murals and Kurt Cobain murals and stuff everywhere to where, they might not know who Kurt Cobain is, but they're going to at one point be like, hey, who's this dude that has all these murals all over the city?
I think two things can be true. Like, I never thought Eddie Vedder was niche, but maybe that's just because of my age.
Look, even before the Vetter Cup series was like announced, I know like of Pearl Jam. I'm not stupid. I know Pearl Jam.
So the players would be the same way, right?
Maybe.
I mean, if you're not, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't think it's so niche that they wouldn't know who he is.
Yeah, I know Pearl Jam. I know Eddie Vedder.
Yeah, I mean,
if you play me their songs, I'd be like, okay, yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not something that I like grew up listening to or listened to like on my own time.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't necessarily done for that reason.
I know
either. And I don't like the way it was. They could have called this the Beatles series, and I'd probably feel the exact same. It could be the biggest act or the biggest name in music history, and I still would be like, well, that's a little bit out of left field for the Mariners and the Padres.
Yeah, but instead, when you find out how the name of this series
On
came
social media,
because of Corey Brock and I think it was Dan Hayes or Dan Haynes. He was on Marty's YouTube show either today or yesterday. Let me pull this up here. Because back in the 2010s ish, Dan Hayes of The Athletic, him and Corey Brock, I think maybe someone else on the beat for the Padres at the time, when the Padres started playing the Mariners in interleague play, it was the joke of it's the Vetter Cup because he lived in both areas.
Yeah, exactly. No, that is interesting to have something like that from 15 years ago come to fruition. And what happened in recent years is fans would joke about it. Obviously, well beyond that, there'd be the social media conversation. We heard about it.
You know, it's funny though, because like if you were to like make fun of a person and they don't realize you're making fun of them, but you're laughing at them in their expense and they don't realize it. I feel like this is how this series is. Everybody's laughing at the name of this series and everyone's laughing at the fact that this is the Vetter Cup. And it's like not because it's quote unquote cool or serious. It's because they think it's dumb.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like
I would completely agree.
Like the lack of self-awareness from these teams
to go ahead and make it official.
Right. Like no one's sitting here like super excited it's the Vetter Cup. They think it's a joke. They think it's like some cute little niche thing.
I think almost the teams maybe do as well. Just to some small extent. Like, of course, nobody's ever thought in a million years, including the owners of the Padres and the Mariners, that the Padres and the Mariners are rivals. Like, they've never, like, make no mistake, nobody's ever said Mariners Padres is a relevant baseball series. There's no way anyone in those front offices is like, man, now that we can make it official, this is going to be Cubs Cardinals 2.0. Like, that's not what they're thinking. They're just doing something because baseball does something every week. They did player weekend where they would put emojis on the back of uniforms. They've had other awful ideas. This is not the first one where like maybe someone's missed the mark on it.
You can almost tell too how much Schulte cares about or doesn't care about the Vetter Cup just for coming before he went out into the dugout for the presser. You know you're going to get asked some form of Pearl Jam question. And you know there's a high probability they're going to ask you, what's your favorite Pearl Jam song?
He said nothing.
You don't, you could just, if he cared just a smidge, he would have maybe just Googled it and then he could just be like, Jeremy. So he could at least have an answer. Yeah. So I'd be like, oh yeah, I love those guys.
That is true.
What? Yeah, sorry, I dropped the ball. I can't name a song.
So it's going to be, I think, very awkward tonight during the 7th inning stretch when they play All the Small Things by Blink-182 on Vetter Cup night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like, if you're going all in here,
I wonder if they are going all in with the music.
You better go all in.
Maybe they will.
Maybe they will. I don't know. Like,
maybe they will.
But
is he going to be there?
I mean, they better have paid him to be there. Someone better have. Eric Grupner better have. You know what? Eric Grupner in his plaid jacket's going to post a picture tonight
with him and Eddie Vedder.
Yeah.
Maybe
he'll be there for Game 6. He'll hand out the trophy.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Eric Grupner will be on the video board, and you're like, why is the marketing officer being paraded around like he's the GM of the team?
And then Eddie Vedder will be like, why am I here?
Yeah, exactly. All right, on the other side, let's give away a pair of tickets to see, well, not Pearl Jam, but Simple Minds with Soft Cell and Modern English next Saturday at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. We'll give those away on the other side. Plus, there's one NFL team that is currently favored in Vegas in all 17 of their regular season games. Which team is that? And Kevin Acey will join us at 5 p.m. It's John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday. It's the Bonus Bucks giveaway. That's every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com. Kevin Acee will join us at 5 p.m. We'll give away these tickets to see Simple Minds coming up in about 5 minutes. It's next Saturday, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Maybe you know the answer to this, or maybe you don't. Which team in Vegas is currently favored in all 17 of their regular season games in the 2025 NFL season?
That would be the Buffalo Bills.
You saw that.
I did.
That to me was like, oh, really? You're like favored in, but I guess some of that makes sense. I'd have to see, obviously, their full schedule. Don't they play Kansas City again? That was the game that Cynthia was most looking forward to. But they've been really good against the Chiefs in regular seasons.
Yeah.
So
it's probably like by a point.
Yeah, exactly. Being favored in 17 games doesn't mean you're in the NFL when the point spreads are like 3 points, 4 points in a lot of these games.
I've seen how it is when a team is favored in every game of the season.
Okay.
And they don't win the Super Bowl. That was the 49ers a couple years ago.
They were favored in every single game they played?
Yeah. Now,
wow.
It happened after like their start of the season.
Right, where they got going.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, and then they became favorites in every single game the remainder of the year.
They were in the regular season?
Yeah.
Were they favored? They weren't favored in the Super Bowl, right?
They were.
They were favored that Super Bowl?
Yeah.
What happened? Wait, was it the first Super Bowl or the second Super Bowl?
It was the second.
Wow.
It was 2 years ago.
I didn't even realize that. Honestly, I did not realize they were favored to beat the Chiefs.
1.5.
By 1.5. Who was favored last year in Chiefs Eagles?
Chiefs.
By like 1.5?
Yeah. Because oddsmaker said, we're not doing that again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's exactly right. So anyway, Buffalo favored in all 17 games. Do I think they're going 17-0? No, I don't.
No.
Do I think that a team other than Kansas City breaks through in the AFC? Question mark?
Exclamation point?
Maybe. I mean, at some point, right? I mean, they can't go to every Super Bowl. Can they?
They could.
Right.
They've been to every single AFC title game since Patrick Mahomes has been a starting quarterback.
That's bonkers. Bonkers.
Yeah.
So I guess they kind of could,
and they're going to have to go through some type of transformation as a team once Travis Kelce leaves
Right.
and Chris Jones leaves. And they've already done it because they traded Tyreek Hill and they still won a Super Bowl, because they drafted and developed so well. And by the way, you have the best quarterback in the league.
Right. And even though like Mahomes in the regular season last year, like the numbers from a sheer stats perspective.
Oh, yeah. He was
pedestrian.
It was closer to an average quarterback in the regular season than a Pro Bowl quarterback.
But then again, you always know that it's Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day, and you think he's fully capable of pulling rabbits out of his hat. Well, so funny, but I just looked up Patrick Mahomes stats and I got the Baseball Reference and his dad playing baseball. Yeah.
That's funny. When you mentioned Josh Allen, I couldn't help but think. So I watched some of the schedule release videos the other day.
All 32, you mean?
No, not all 32. just like 3.
Okay.
I watched the Chargers.
Yeah.
Because their social media team, even though the Chargers franchise is a joke, their social media team is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And they did the Minecraft thing. And, and it was just like average, whatever. But the end credits, they had like an end credits for Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible.
What was funny about it? What was good about it?
They had Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz fighting in a Starbucks.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Okay, yeah.
They had this is a deep cut because you mentioned Josh Allen. So Josh Allen's now fiance Haley Steinfeld, I think that's Haley Steinfeld. Haley Steinfeld was in this new movie called Sinners. I haven't seen it yet. I heard it's really good. Michael B. Jordan, Ryan Coogler, he's the director of it. And in the movie, spoilers, sorry, she has this like exotic sex scene with Michael B. Jordan, and she's like dirty talking, and it's pretty graphic.
And this is Josh Allen's fiance or wife?
Yeah, fiance.
Okay, fiance.
And Sauce Gardner on social media put out a tweet to the effects of, man, I would not want to be Josh Allen right now after watching Sinners.
Right.
And so one of the deep cuts the Chargers did was they had Josh Allen as a Minecraft character walking out of the movie theater and Sauce Gardner outside the movie theater like pointing at Josh Allen.
That's amazing. So they went deep.
Oh, deep cut.
How about this, to the point where obviously the Colts got in trouble with what they put in their video with Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill getting arrested.
Yeah.
And then Tyreek Hill comes out and says, I thought that was funny.
But to the point where I saw in Pro Football Talk today that the NFL previously didn't require teams to send them a preview of their schedule release videos, and that will change in 2026. So some of the things you see from the Chargers or what you saw this year from the Colts, that might be going by the wayside once the NFL reviews all 32 of these.
The no fun league strikes again.
Exactly. Like, let them, it's social media. But if you've spent 2 seconds on this platform X, you're seeing a lot worse than Tyreek Hill little cut-ups from the Colts on their schedule release, right?
100%.
I mean, you spend 2 seconds, and it's not just X, it's all over social media. Like, sometimes you got to live a little. It's okay. Everything's going to be fine.
If you guys are going to
police that,
want NFL teams to have these creative videos that do their schedule release, have them be fun.
Yeah.
Don't water this down. It's already,
that's my fear.
Again, the word of the day on John and Jim is contrived, because the schedule release is ridiculous.
And you're right, but it's not contrived, right? Like these teams, the schedule releases, but when the teams do their videos, it's like they are very creative with their videos. The schedule is contrived. Like, why are we releasing a schedule? We already know the Niners' opponents in February,
but they make it into this huge thing,
right?
And that the NFL teams release videos are the contrived part of it.
Right.
So it's like why are we doing this? Now it has morphed into who can be the most creative, and I appreciate that. There's some teams that are just like boring or whatever. Like, I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars one with Ashton Hall was funny.
Right.
And Cynthia said the other day, is like, I don't know if he realizes like they're making fun of him. The same
like
thing.
The Vetter Cup.
The Vetter Cup. Like, it's like we're making fun of you.
But if you're in on it, it's kind of cool too. Maybe he's just in on it.
Maybe
he's willing to go along. It's
taking
the
that
NFL.
He's taking that 15 minutes of fame and really extending that thing.
Yeah, I like the schedule release videos, like the iconic one, the 2023 Titans, where they just interview people outside like a Grateful Dead show and ask them what helmet this is. And they're like, the shiny things, and it's the Las Vegas Raiders, and so on and so forth.
And then there's other teams that have this huge production that's just not funny and doesn't hit.
There's that too. Yeah, exactly.
The Raiders did a funny one where they were in like a boardroom, and they were like with Penn and Teller, and Penn and Teller kept finding yellow flags everywhere, and they're pulling yellow flags out of like people's hats and like pockets. And they're like, "Oh, what's that there?" It's a yellow flag. And then it came up, we play the Chiefs on like September 30th.
That's creative. Yeah.
Because the flags and the refs and everything. So
that's creative. But again, I feel like it's the biggest project of a social media team in the offseason, from the day the season ends until the day of the schedule release. I feel like that's what they work on. They have months to come up with like this creative idea to release their schedule. And now some of these teams arguably maybe went too far. The Colts are the latest example.
No, go farther.
That's the thing. And now the NFL is like, well, we may have to preview your videos before you release them the next time there's a schedule. Yeah, I know. It's like, of all things, that's what we're concerned about. Seriously.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
Well, it's just funny too, because, they'll get mad because, you put a player in there getting arrested. It's like, oh, you mean that same player that when he got arrested, you guys didn't even suspend him for the, what he did? It's like, but don't put him in the video. You guys aren't going to punish him, but we shouldn't put it in the video.
Exactly. All right, Kevin AC will join us on the other side. Call right now, though, if you want a pair of tickets to see Simple Minds with Soft Cell and Modern English. Saturday, May 24th, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. First caller to 877-767-4760 is going to see Simple Minds with Soft Cell and Modern English next Saturday, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. First caller to 877-767-4760 is going. Again, call right now, 877-767-4760. Kevin AC, our Padres insider, gets us ready for this Mariners series. On the other side, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, this update is brought to you by the San Diego Rescue Mission. Padres Mariners start a 3-game series tonight at Petco. 6:40 first pitch. Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres tonight. We are moments away from tip-off in New York. Game 6, Knicks and Celtics. Knicks looking to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, while the Celtics are looking to force a Game 7. Breaking news in the NFL today, Brock Purdy and the Niners agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract, $53 million per year, making him the 7th highest paid QB in the league. STFC, they take on Kansas City tomorrow night. 7:30 start time, 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts right here on San Diego Sports 760. Our neighbors experience homelessness, need hope more now than ever. Give them life-changing help with a generous gift to the San Diego Rescue Mission. Your donation at sdrescue.org will be matched up to $150,000. Help people get off the streets permanently. Give at sdrescue.org.
All right, final hour, John and Jim with you until 6 p.m. Always great to connect with our Padres insider, Kevin AC, as the Padres and Mariners get set to score off tonight at Petco at 6:40. Kevin, we appreciate it. I wanted to start with something that I feel like you've said here a number of times over the last few weeks or months about Michael King or Dylan Cease. I don't know if you saw the reporting from John Heyman. And I don't know if it's anything really new to report, but he wrote that the Padres will try to bring back either Dylan Cease or Michael King. And then he went on to say with King being the primary target. You've talked about that before as well. Is there anything new as it relates to any extension talks with either of those pitchers? And thanks again for joining.
As confident as I can be in that it has been a week since I checked in last on this topic. Mm-hmm. There has been no conversations between the sides in either case. But that's pretty typical for the Padres. Like, first off, the Padres are just in New York, so get where Hans Heyman, checked in, right?
Right. Yeah.
And they don't necessarily, they have time. Now, they would be well advised with both to try and get it done before the end of the season, but they have time. And so I'm not surprised to some extent. I thought with King, because I really do believe King, and I have reported that before, is the more likely. But it doesn't surprise me. It's just kind of the way, the flow of how AJ does these things. That said, once he gets started on something, it could be like 2 days later. Yeah. And I'm exaggerating slightly, right. But once he decides he wants to get it done, and him and Josh Stein sit down and come up with some creative plan or whatever, it could get done quickly. But I am. A lot of times I'll be like, gosh, I'm going to hem and haw here because, things could have happened in the last week since I talked to someone, or maybe I haven't talked to someone in a month about it, right? Mm-hmm. But this is on my radar, has been for a while, and I check in every once in a while, and there have been no talks.
And you mentioned maybe their preference. Would you say just by, who you've talked to and your own opinion that their preference would be to re-sign Michael King over Dylan Cease?
That's what I call educated speculation, because I try to always say when I'm just putting out my opinion, because my job is just different than, yours or whatever. In terms of, I feel like I owe it to you guys and fans to give facts. And so but this would be educated speculation where no one said to me flat out, we're going to go after Michael King hard and, Dylan Cease, maybe, or whatever. But based on how they talk, based on how they talk about the consistency and how they feel about Michael King. Does not mean it's bad about Dylan Cease, but the consistency, the mileage on the arm, the repertoire. It is my belief based on those conversations that that Michael King is the more likely for them to try for. And I would say more likely to sign because, I'm not saying it's impossible, but Dylan Cease is, been waiting to be a free agent a long time. Dylan Cease's agent is Scott Boras. That's not to say, look, Michael King is the coolest, most down-to-earth guy that you could see just taking a contract for a place he wants to be. There's two things I want to point out. He's an East Coast guy, and Michael King believes in himself big time. Michael King believes he deserves to be paid like Dylan Cease.
Yeah, he does, based on his body of work these last 2 seasons. Good perspective. Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, with us right now. John and Jim. What's your best, and it probably is a guess, unless Mike Schild has said more on it. You Darvish's next start, would your best guess be it's in the major leagues, or would there be another minor league rehab start in store for him?
So here's some more educated speculation. This one's a little more dangerous because this is so much up to you, Darvish, right? And I have not been able to get an update today. But educated speculation is that we're talking about Toronto because they don't. Well, why would you waste bullets on a guy? I think we talked about that. And I have run that past a few people and they're like, yeah, okay, yeah. Like not telling me I'm wrong. And so I am speculating here based on conversations that like if he's ready, he's ready. And look at the unorthodox way to some extent. This is how they do it more often, though, where he builds up before he even makes that rehab start. I mean, 5 innings or 4 innings, and what was it, 61 pitches or 56 pitches or something like whatever it was. Like that was a good outing, man. And so it's kind of like the only reason it wouldn't happen, from what I understand, is if you just doesn't feel like he's ready to do that and be Yu Darvish in the major leagues right now. But it makes all the sense in the world based on 38, wasting bullets, and the fact that they basically need it, right? Slot him in after Dylan Cease, so that Dylan Cease doesn't have to go a week between starts, or more, maybe even with the day off, the 2 days off. And then that helps them because they start the 9 in a row then. So I think it really makes sense if Yu's ready.
We talked about Jason Hayward last time you were on. He wasn't in the lineup on Wednesday, and you mentioned there might be other things that there wasn't in the lineup, but his also performance is a reason why as well. Brandon Lockridge, he came through on Wednesday night when Jason Hayward couldn't come through on Tuesday night, and Brandon Lockridge gets another start tonight. Is this just a right in the hot hand type of situation until further notice, or what's going to happen here in the near future?
This kid tonight, was his name Logan Evans? Severely reverse splits the starter for the Mariners.
Okay.
Severely. So I don't know if that's just really convenient for the Padres that he was able to say, look, Kyle Hendricks on basically even splits, kind of, meaning that righties did not, or he did not do appreciably better. He did about the same versus righties and lefties. This kid tonight does far better against lefties than righties, both average, slug in particular. So, like, it makes sense, actually. Now, here's what I could not get an answer on. If Jason Hayward were hitting 100 points better, 150 points better, would they still start Lockridge? I don't know. So what I'm saying is, like, I think something might be afoot here, but based on these past 2 games, we can't really tell because it actually did make sense. I haven't looked ahead, maybe over the weekend when they're facing 2 righties. And if those guys are your usual righties who do better against righties than lefties, and then we see Hayward or Lockridge in there, maybe then we start to really learn something. I think it's a combination of those based on just conversations I've had, that the splits of the opposing pitchers, Hayward struggling, Lockridge needs some playing time, Lockridge came through. I think it all factors in. I have been pounding the drum for a while and said, Jason Hayward's value is more than what he does on the field. He has to at least be serviceable on the field, or at the plate, and he is not right now. That can't continue, and him continue to be employed. But if he can be somewhat serviceable, it's rare that I will buy into wholeheartedly, hook, line, and sinker into the whole leadership thing. But the things that are volunteered about this guy they call J-Hay, that's what the players call him. And like, it's real. Now, you can't hit 105, buddy. I think he's hitting 170, but over the last 11 games or something, it's like 105. Can't do that. Don't care what kind of leader you are. But he's got a longer leash.
Kevin Acey's our Padres insider, is back with us right now on John and Jim. This is kind of interesting tonight for Stephen Kolek. It's against the team that had him and then lost him in the Rule 5 draft. And you got to give, we've given the Padres a lot of credit over the last 2 seasons in some of the moves they've made. Here's another one of them, right? You pick up Kolek Rule 5. There was an up and down a year ago, but he's obviously flourished here as a starter to begin 2025. I would think that for Stephen Kolek, there's like a little something extra tonight going up against his former organization, right?
Yes, And I think he's well suited. Now, it doesn't mean he's not going to get rocked, but I think he's really well suited to do it because the kid's just cool, man. Like, I don't know. I thought of one way to say it, but it would sound like I'm insulting him. So I'm not going to, but like, he's just a cool guy. He keeps it really simple. Throw strikes. Don't get too worked up. And I think that that is a huge part of a starting pitcher, and especially one who maybe doesn't have overwhelming stuff, right? Like, he's got a good repertoire, but this isn't Dylan Cease. I don't know that he has, besides the sinker, which really helps him with the contact, and I think the sweeper too. But like, he doesn't even have like the out pitches Michael King has. So I think that his attitude is well suited to face his former team. And I think he's pretty fired up about it, or as much as you can tell with Stephen Foley. And yes, give him credit, man. Not only did they like hit him, right, but then they identified for various reasons that he was suited to be a starter. And so far it turns out that they were right. So good for them.
It was nice that Robert Suarez got to go back out there on Wednesday to kind of, redeem himself a little bit for Monday night, but still seemed like his command was off a little bit. I mean, he got through a scoreless inning, so like that is going to give you confidence in itself. But I don't know, Kevin, it still didn't seem like he was fully right on Wednesday.
Especially early, right? Like once he threw a strike, then it was over pretty quickly, right? Yeah. I mean, I was writing, but like once he got the first guy out, I put my head down a little bit to write. And so much else happened. I haven't really dug into it or asked anybody about it. But it was, I know what you were thinking at 3-0. It was 3-0, right? Like, yeah. It was ugly.
And it was a great spot to get him in.
He did it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a good spot to get him in because they had a 4-run lead, you know?
Yes. And that's a Schultz move right there. Of course, I call it the Robert Suarez the save, the 4-run lead. I mean, I think Schultz did that like 8 or 9 times last year because that's one of Schultz's things, right? Hey, we got a win in hand. If I bring Sean Reynolds out there, because I've seen a lot of managers do this, right? And then all of a sudden I'm putting Robert in a situation where if Robert has to come in that game, it's because there's 2 guys on and now the tying runs at the plate, something like that. So Schultz a big 4-run lead guy.
Yeah, and it worked out, and hopefully that gives them the confidence moving forward. Okay, this is a safe space. I need to know your honest opinion on the Vetter Cup.
Oh, come on. Why are you doing that to me? No, here's the truth. I think it's really cool that something that started among fans became recognized. I do. I think it's really cool. I do. It's really also like the dumbest thing, like for a lot of reasons, right? I mean, players could care less. I don't see, now here's the thing. I don't think the fans do either, except for the ones who kind of made it a thing, right? And they made it a thing, and it was almost like grassroots, and that made it kind of cooler. But anyway, I don't know what you guys think. I was so happy. I got to say, John, I thought you were going to refer to it jokingly, right? Like I thought you were going to facetiously refer to it in the intro when you were like, nice, and the Padres. Yeah. I thought you were, and I was so happy you didn't. But that probably gives away how I feel. That probably does. But I think it's cool that there was this, I forget what's his name. Who was the guy on Twitter? I don't think he's on Twitter anymore. But he kind of created it, and then like Twitter took off with it, and now the Padres. Now look, Vetter's an avowed, like hardcore Cubs fan. Kind of diminishes it a little bit, right? But like, I think it's kind of cool. What do you guys think?
I mean, we agree with this. I mean, it's so hard to. Here's my honest question, Kevin, and I
think we're the same then.
No, but I honestly, maybe it's going to be you post game. I need someone to ask. I need someone to ask. Be like,
no chance.
Okay, not about this, but I need you to ask. Like, hey, when you had that 9-run lead. Were you thinking about adding on because run differential's a factor in this thing?
That's such a good one. Oh my gosh. Okay, I will look at. I wish Schultz had a better sense of humor.
I know.
I'm sorry that he was in the headspace after games. Something I want fans to remember as they're watching Schultz post game. The guy's like an NFL coach. Man, I honestly don't know how he humanly does it. He lives those games, man.
Yeah.
He's not in a space. Not like he's got the greatest sense of humor anyway, but he's not in a space after games. Whereas, like, I feel like a lot of managers I've worked with would have known I was joking, right? Like, it's a baseball game. There's 162 of them. And, like, they know my personality. So then they would know I was joking. I don't know that I could do that with Schilt. but maybe I could Michael King or somebody like that, right? Like, hey, man, were you happy you only gave up one run there? That could be huge at the end.
Well, and then the next tiebreaker is exit velocity. So you can.
Oh my God.
So now you need to ask, were you thinking I have to swing really hard here, knowing that the run differential was exactly the same and I have to make sure to hit the ball hard?
Don't do
If
that.
it comes down to it, when do we go there? Is it July, August?
It's
probably
August.
late when we go there.
It's August.
When we're there, if it's coming down, if it's, if it's 3-3 and it came down to something like that, I promise you guys that after game number 6, I will ask.
Wow.
Thank you, Kevin.
That is a promise.
I love, by the way, thank you for telling me the exit velocity. I feel like that means that the Padres and Mariners realize how stupid this is to a certain extent.
Correct.
Let's make exit velocity one
Part
of
of
them.
the equation, no doubt. Kevin, enjoy the weekend series, and we will catch up with you next week on Monday. Thanks for doing it as always.
Right on. Take care.
Right, Kevin Hayes, your Padres insider. We'll react on the other side. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego FC back on the pitch tomorrow night, taking on Sporting KC at Snapdragon Stadium. You can hear the match live tomorrow night, beginning at 7 right here on San Diego Sports 760, your home for SDFC.
Do you ever have during the show your wife dealing with issues or like I don't know, an emergency and text you during the show and you're like, hey, I can't do anything right now. Like I'm literally on air.
Yes, I don't usually say that. I don't know if you do or either, but I'll like today's an example too, like something work related where I'm trying to provide help. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I get it because you know what I mean? Like they know what we do. Aaron knows what you do. Krista knows what I do.
Like, I can't do anything.
They think we can do, but they think we can do two things at once.
Right. So during that interview with Kevin,
right,
I get like 50 text messages from Aaron. And I'm fine with saying this is not like a personal thing.
Right.
And it's to the effect of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
That were the first text?
Yeah.
That to me would sound like a murderer. You know, like you have to have perspective.
I'm like, what's
going on? Right.
So the first one, she goes, OMFG, we are under attack of crows.
Oh, okay. That's better than saying like, oh my God. Like, because then you don't know what's going on.
Well, the first couple texts were, oh my God, oh my
okay,
God, oh my God.
Okay.
And I go, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, what? She's like, I'm shaking. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're under attack by crows? Huh?
Right. Crows aren't like tigers.
No, but still, I'm like,
historically.
Did you let her know that a group of crows is called a murder?
Is it really?
Yes.
Really?
I did not know that. Thanks for that, Brian.
Wow.
I'll let her know. She'll freak out
One of
even
my
more.
favorite Simpsons episodes.
So Bentley was outside our dog. And long story short, there was an injured crow in our front yard. And Bentley like went up to it and was like, what is this? But because there was an injured crow, an entire flock of crows thought Bentley was attacking it.
Oh.
And so in our front yard, and I have it on my Ring camera. Like I literally just watched this play out on my Ring camera. Aaron's screaming. Bentley's like frozen. He's not moving. These crows are like coming down in our front yard and like kind of swooping at Bentley. And Bentley's just like standing there like freaking out. And Aaron's like slamming the door, like on the verge of crying, yelling at Bentley to come inside.
All in a day's work while we're on the radio.
And I'm like,
playing out.
I'm like, what? As we're talking to Kevin about the Vetter Cup, a murderer of crows is attacking my dog and my wife.
Well, what happened? Is everything fine?
So, one of our neighbors came over in the yard because there's no chance in hell that Aaron would have gone out there to pick up the injured crow to like get it out of our yard.
Right.
The neighbor came over and I saw this on our Ring camera.
Moved the crow.
Took the crow like in her jacket and like removed it from our yard and like brought it out to like the street or like the side alley. Or
and
whatever.
Bentley's fine.
Bentley's barking his head off, but he's.
But
fine.
I mean, he wasn't like attacked by these murdering crows.
Not that I saw, but
physically.
If I show you the video, like like in the video, Bentley's in our front yard, and it's not a big front yard. He's like standing there. He's like frozen, and I see this other crow that's injured, like kind of walking around the yard, and then I see all the crows like swooping in like towards Bentley.
So Bentley was like he was innocent, but they thought he was guilty.
Yeah,
it's like he was in the wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, he went outside to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, and then like saw this injured crow.
There's an injured crow in our front
and
yard.
They're like, he did it.
Yep. And they started freaking out.
Wow.
So that
happened while we talked to Kevin about Michael King and Dylan Cease and whether the Padres prioritize one over the other in extension.
Correct.
And about the Vetter Cup.
Correct. And about exit velocity.
It's like we said about Tatis. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes when they're out there on the field. They're real people too. Tatis might have crows in his yard.
He
attacking his dog.
He might have a murder of crows attacking his animal.
Is his yard nicer than yours? Yeah.
Yeah.
Does his dog eat better food? Maybe not because Aaron loves Bentley, but
yeah,
right.
Not.
But his dog probably has like a series of dog walkers that like protect this dog. Yeah. Would be my guess.
Yeah, Tatis's dog's collar is probably more than like my life, like combined by whatever. I don't know.
Nick's trying to close it out tonight. at MSG against the Celtics and leading midway through the first quarter 11-5. So the Knicks an early lead over the Celtics, a game that could send the Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in a quarter century, where they would take on the Pacers if they do win. So obviously massive game in the East in game 6, and then we'll have a game 7 coming up. We haven't even touched on this today. We'll have a game 7 coming up in the Western Conference between the Nuggets and the Thunder, and that's going to be Sunday between the Nuggets and the Thunder, with the winner going to the Western Conference Finals. I would think the Thunder are in decent position coming back home, but the Nuggets have already won at OKC this series, and it is a 7th game, so anything is possible. But I would guess the Knicks find a way tonight. I would guess the Thunder find a way on Sunday.
Is that game underway right now?
Yeah, I just said 11-5 Knicks over the Celtics.
Sorry, again, not listening.
Crow talk, I know.
Crow talk. Murdering crows.
Exactly.
Attacking my wife and my dog.
Right.
I think that game 7 will be chalk. I think the Thunder are going to win that game. And I think the Thunder and I think the Timberwolves, I said that they were frauds because they could barely beat the Warriors, but towards the end of that series, you're kind of seeing like, okay, maybe they're actually really good. And they have the benefit of having the most rest in the postseason of any of these teams, by the way, except for Indiana. So like, yeah, I think Minnesota is going to have a real good chance against the Thunder, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm looking forward to these conference finals once we have them set. I think there's a chance for some really good finals. And again, the intrigue of Knicks Pacers is pretty good. And if we get Thunder T-Wolves, I think that's pretty good too. All right, we're getting you ready for Padres and Mariners tonight. Also, Jim's back page is ahead. Don't go anywhere. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
Homer, I'm very uncomfortable having a gang of crows in our bedroom.
It's a murder, honey. A group of crows is called a murder.
This update's brought to you by the Jip Patrol Real Estate Team. Padres Mariners start a 3-game series tonight at Petco. 6:40 first pitch. Stephen Kolk on the mound for the Padres. Game 6 between the Knicks and the Celtics underway right now in New York. So the Knicks are up 13-10 over the Celtics with 4:30 left in the first quarter. Of course, Boston's trying to force a Game 7. Knicks are trying to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. SDFC, they take on Kansas City tomorrow night at Snapdragon Stadium. 7:30 kickoff. 7 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts. And Brock Purdy and the Niners agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract today, getting paid $53 million a year, the 7th highest AAV among QBs in the league. Would you like to know what your home would sell for today? Get a simple text message with your home's value by texting your address to 855-600-6000. You'll get no phone call, just a text. Jim Buttrell's the buyer. Simply text your address to 855-600-6000.
All right, Padres coming up in an hour. We just had Kevin Acee on the show. If you missed it, you can find it at sportssd.com or on the iHeartRadio app. Some of the conversation centered on Michael King and Dylan Cease. He said basically no new news. Remember, it was John Heyman that reported within the last 24 hours that the Padres have interest in extending one of those pitchers, with potentially Michael King being their preference. Kevin has written on this. Kevin has talked on this. And he says no new news, but he made the point that we made earlier as well, which is like the way Preller works, you kind of never know. I mean, things could happen in short order, but
Merrill happened very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. But they do have time with the length of the year to get an extension done if they were to get an extension done.
Yeah, I would bet behind closed doors, while they might not have approached Michael King or Dylan Cease, they might be preparing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you gotta be prepared before you go to the player to start, contract negotiations, right?
Right. Like you got to have like a PowerPoint or like a Canva.
Yeah.
You know, so, hey, do you want to do an extension? Yeah. What were you thinking? Oh, I don't know. What do you thinking?
PowerPoint.
You're gonna have to have like a nice like PDF.
Well, there has to be a number in mind. There has to be a number that the organization is comfortable doing, and something that you're comfortable doing as an organization. And so you can't go to Michael King like, hey, I'll talk contract. And if he's like, yeah, I want 150 million, and it's like, oh, sorry, we actually can't do that. Like,
well, what are you comfortable with if you own the Padres?
I don't care.
Well, I know. Okay. Well, what would you do if you were in AJ Preller's shoes and you reported to ownership and you were with, like, what's realistic for Michael King if he were to stay here? In terms of dollars and years. Are you looking for a 4-year deal if you're the Padres? Are you looking for longer or shorter? And we keep hearing this 100 million range. Like what could keep Michael King here for $100 million? Is that 3 years? Is that less years? More? I mean, that's the thing. I do wonder, like Kevin just told us, like Michael King's going to bet on himself, right? He's probably not going to take some type of hometown discount. He's not from here, right? Musgrove maybe did, although they haven't gotten the most out of Musgrove. So like, if he's going to bet on himself, it might come at a real premium if you extend him out. And I agree with you. Maybe Dylan Cease is more with Scott Boras as an agent, but it's going to come at a premium.
4 for 140.
I like it. That's your offer? You're AJ?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Michael. So 4 for 140, don't tell me, is 35? 35 a year?
Yeah.
You give me 35 a year?
It's the going rate, man.
You watch my last couple starts?
They're very good.
You see me last year?
You're very good.
You see my career numbers in a Padres uniform?
They're
under 3 ERA.
They're very good. You've been a starter for 1 season.
1.5.
Almost 1.5.
You tried taking me to arbitration, bud.
But we didn't.
I think 4 for 140 is pretty fair, truthfully.
It's not a ton of years. It's not a ton of years. The AAV is high.
Yep.
But you are going to be locking up one of the better right-handed pitchers in baseball.
Good point. Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of innings on his arm. So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's a thing that if you're Michael King, you don't have a lot to show other than just last year and then this year as well. Especially if you get a deal done in the middle of the season, you only have 1.5 years of you being a starter under your belt.
That's true. Yeah.
So
4 for 140. I mean, I do wonder, like, is that something that the Padres could realistically pull off? I mean, why not? Again, it's not our money. I'm not
I would
charge the budget, but that doesn't seem like it's what's coming off the books.
Hosmer,
Cease
Cease
in that scenario.
Arise.
We just accounted for $30 million, did we not? 30 plus.
So 12 or 16 for Hosmer, 12 for Arise,
12, 13 Cease, right?
12, 13 Cease.
So right there, I mean, 12 times 3 is 36. Just rough math. I mean, we just made up $35 million right there with those 3 players.
Yeah.
So maybe they do have it, is the point.
Maybe they may. They might.
They may have it.
You're going to get, boosts from guys like Tatis and Manny, like those contracts.
What they're making.
Those AAVs, those are going up. Or not the
AAVs are
sorry.
staying the same.
The AAVs are staying. You're right, but the money per year. So like Tatis is all of a sudden going to go from making like 12 million a year to like 30 million.
And then Manny too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like 35 million.
Or even like I think Nick Pivetta makes a lot more money next year in terms of actual cash.
Pivetta's only under he's getting $1 million this year.
Right. So
I think it goes to 19 next year.
Yeah. So their payroll, their expenses are going to go
35
up.
Is a lot per year.
Yeah, it is. But it is the going rate. It's like the Purdy conversation we had.
Yeah.
You might say, wow, 35 a year. And then you look around baseball and say, well, that's what they make. Mm-hmm. And then you look at Purdy, wow, 53 a year. That's what quarterbacks make. That's what the good ones make, if not more. In fact, if you did do that deal for Michael King, there's a lot of pitchers that make more than 35 a year.
Yeah.
And you could argue maybe he's better than some of those. Like, I mean, we haven't done the
Would
full
anybody
look.
sit here if they sign Michael King to a 4-year, $140 million deal and be like, I don't know about that one?
No one. And I don't think it's at the expense of something else, because if I'm going to be at the expense of something else, I'll do it on starting pitching.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather use it on starting pitching.
And Preller's track record of signing starting pitchers, like to big contracts, hasn't been great until Nick Pivetta this year. When you think about it, Darvish, that contract is not going to be lived up to.
Right. Joe Musgrove won't be lived up to.
Joe Musgrove, it's a bad contract now because he got injured.
Mm-hmm.
Before, it was a great contract, but he's injured. So unfortunately, it's not a good one.
Right.
And then other than that, he hasn't really signed pitchers to big time contracts, right?
No, almost all the money's been spent on position players.
Yeah, it's all trades like Darvish, Snell. Joe.
Yep.
Pivetta's like the first pitcher they've signed in the Preller era that I can remember to like a multi-year deal worth as much as that.
Money, yeah. And that worked out to this point. That has worked out
so far, knock on wood.
Yeah. So, and then you got tonight, Stephen Kolek against his former organization. We barely touched on it. We did with Kevin. He was Rule 5'd by Seattle, ends up with the Padres. And would you know, he's in the Padres rotation for a team that's 27-15. And he's been really good in 2 starts. We'll see if that continues tonight or not. But it follows a long line of moves that Preller has made, I would say, over the last 2 years. I'm not talking about 10 years, but over the last 2 years that have been really savvy. Now, they're flyers. Rule 5s is a flyer. There's not a lot of risk, but the reward has been pretty decent with Kolek. Last year, up and down as a reliever, he's stuck on the big league roster.
And there was times he was awful last year.
He had a 5 ERA.
Yeah.
So, but then they're like, hey, you know what? Let's convert him to a starter. We're like, oh, that's interesting. And not only are we going to convert him to a starter, like it's worked out in 2 starts. Again, it's a small sample, but it's encouraging.
And usually Rule 5 guys, you just take it for a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Like who cares? Whatever. Right. But maybe Kolek does turn into something.
Right.
And first, through his first 2 starts, he's been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens tonight, but could not have asked for anything better from Stephen Kolek. He was a guy that I said that should be in the starting rotation from day one.
You did say that. Yep, you did.
I thought his spring training was really good. I think his stuff, like it's starter stuff, and it's good stuff that he has.
Mm-hmm.
Just got to lengthen him out more because he's never done this before, and he's never had this many pitches in a game until recently in Colorado, where, I mean, a shutout in Colorado. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I don't care what their lineup looks like.
No.
Pitching at elevation. I saw Nick Pivetta like the next day
give up 6 runs.
Yeah, so it's not, it's easy. Look at that, right? It's not easy to go 9 innings.
No.
In Denver.
It's not easy to go 9 innings at all at any point in baseball.
It really isn't, but it's even harder. And I know they're not good, but I mean, come on.
They throw like 111 pitches.
So pretty efficient for 9 innings.
Mm-hmm. And the good thing is he's had the extra day of rest.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But I love what I've seen from Kolek to start.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And he'll be pitching tonight again against the Mariners. Game 1 of that 3-game series. I was just Googling best Rule 5 pickups ever. It's really not a list, to your point.
Because there's a reason why they're Rule 5 guys.
That's exactly right. Josh Hamilton was Rule 5, but there was a circumstance in there, wasn't there?
Like he did drugs.
Yeah, that was the circumstance. Anthony Santander, by the way.
Oh, he's good.
Rule 5 as well.
Okay, he's good.
But there's some guys in there. All right, we're going to get to Jim's back page. On the other side, we are here until 6 p.m. Don't go anywhere. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. Final time for the week, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. You just mentioned this to me off air. Denver Nuggets forward Aaron Gordon, left hamstring strain, status in doubt.
Hammy Strange strikes again.
It's been the story of the postseason is his injuries.
Well, they played a million games already.
They have.
They were bound to have one injury on that team.
Right. So he left late game 6. He's averaging 17-7 in the postseason.
Yeah. Without Aaron Gordon, they're not even in the position they're in right now. He's had 2 game winners for them.
That's ridiculous.
And Thunder by 20 on
if he doesn't
Sunday.
play.
He's not going to play.
He's not going to play?
No.
All right. Status in doubt.
Yeah.
You got to, it's game 7.
But when you have a strained hammy, you can't just play through it.
Wrap it up.
You could play through a sprained ankle. You could play through a lot of different things. Strained hammy, that's like, dude,
you don't have to run up and down. Just stay on one side of the court.
Okay. Yeah. 4 and 5 the whole entire time.
Just stay on offense. We got you on defense.
It's in the corner, just ready to shoot.
All right. Let's get to it.
By the way, you without you knowing, you paid off your sushi bet today.
Yeah, I got you a rainbow roll. You're welcome.
I got myself a rainbow roll, and I said I would just take it out of your YouTube money later this month.
That's fine. You better not have added on like miso soup.
I didn't. I got one rainbow roll. I got nothing else.
One rainbow roll.
Yeah, I got the receipt in the car. You want to see it?
I thought you were going to go over to where were you going to go for $400 entrees?
Oh, I was going to go to Nobu at Hotel Del. They just opened up a Nobu there.
Have we talked about the new hotel in your neck of the woods?
Huh?
The new property in Chula?
No.
You know what I'm talking about? The largest hotel ever built in the history of the West Coast that you drive by every single day on your way home. The Gaylord property in Chula on the waterfront. You don't know. You know what I'm talking about.
No,
right?
I really don't.
Just end the show.
Okay.
There's like 12 restaurants in it. It's the largest hotel like ever. It's opening this weekend.
Oh, I haven't been there. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Wait, no.
That thing, it's like I think you and me with Aaron one time, we went to like a Novo and you could like see across the water, the property.
Okay, that's a hotel?
Yes, you idiot.
I don't know these things.
This thing? Have you seen this?
Oh,
on like your drive home or anything?
I have not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's opening this weekend. I
You
think.
can stay there this weekend. Prices they start at $533 a night this weekend.
That's actually very reasonable.
Yes.
Said nobody ever.
Gaylord Pacific invites guests to sprawling resort.
Like
I can't
how-
believe you guys don't know about
I
this.
love how like things like are like, oh, this new thing here, this new thing here. And the average folk has no shot at ever going there.
Yeah, but you like a nice restaurant.
I can go to a restaurant there, sure.
And there's like 12 restaurants in this thing.
Okay. They're all like
probably
$500 steaks.
Yeah, but that's what you like.
Yeah,
I think there's a sushi joint in here.
For $500 sushis?
I don't know sushis. I have no idea. Look at this thing, dude. You should go
Wow.
in this. Bring Aaron over there and Bentley and the Crows.
The murdering crows?
Look at that.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, swing by.
Okay. Great.
Anyway.
So thank you for the sushi
Yeah.
today. You
Yeah,
didn't
you're
even go
welcome.
and get it for me. I had to get it for myself.
You're welcome.
First up, John, would you pay $15,000 to catch a pass from Patrick Mahomes?
No, but I would maybe for one of his cards. No, not to catch a pass. Why? Is someone really willing to do that?
A Fanatics event is offering offering collectors a VIP experience to catch a pass from Patrick Mahomes on May 29th in Kansas City. The package includes a football thrown by Mahomes and yours to keep, a display case shipped with the football, a highlight reel of the event, and an autographed event photo.
I wouldn't do that. No.
The offer also gets you a Fanatics swag bag, a Mahomes jersey to wear at the event, and a framing of the event photo, plus food and drink.
No.
For $15,000?
No, no chance. No chance. None.
0% chance.
Now with Sammy?
Sammy would do that because he bows
Yeah.
at the feet of Patrick Mahomes no matter what.
Exactly.
You know Ann's Dry Cleaning?
Oh, you mean the ice cream shop? Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like world renowned, right?
It is. Ann's Dry Cleaning, once again, is vying for the title of best ice cream shop in America, John.
Are there multiple in San Diego? There's one in Del Mar.
There is multiple.
I think there are multiple.
Because I think there's one in like Kensington.
I think you may be right. You should have seen the one in Del Mar on Mother's Day.
Oh,
can you imagine the line? It was like 1,000
around the corner.
Long.
Yeah. Ann's Dry Cleaning is very good. Not like you wouldn't expect it to be because it's like called Ann's Dry Cleaning, but it's elite ice cream.
Is it Ann's Hat Shop, one of them? Because I think they sell hats in one of them. It's very bizarre, but it's very like cool.
The ice cream shop, it's nominated in USA Today's best ice cream shop in America. They got second place in 2023 and then they nabbed the number one spot last year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So they're looking for back-to-back years with the number one ice cream shop in America in USA Today.
Absurd. Like an amazing, ridiculous accomplishment.
Oh, yeah. Ice cream.
Number one and number two, and maybe that's ridiculous. How many ice cream places are there in America? Seriously, 100,000? Now, a lot of them might be chains, but yeah, it's amazing.
Did you see the beef on Twitter between TGI Fridays and Chili's?
No, but that sounds amazing.
It says America's casual restaurant chains aren't nearly as laid back about their fried cheese dishes. On Wednesday, TGI Fridays ignited a feud with Chili's after knocking the latter's mozzarella sticks on social media while implying their own is superior. They said, quote, somebody tell Chili's emoji. Sounds like a Chili's. Someone tell Chili's to stay in their lane. The social media team behind TGI Fridays wrote in a now deleted tweet, seen is in a screen grab on X. Y'all are not mozzarella stick people. We are. That's it. That's the tweet. Chili's on Thursday clapped back with a spicy remark, seemingly referencing the recent closure of dozens of TGI Friday restaurants.
Wow.
Saying, at us next time, the Chili's post began. Also, we honestly didn't know you were still open. Congrats.
Oh,
shots fired. Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, Fridays has seen better days, hasn't it?
Chili's is elite. I have to say that right now.
Are they?
Chili's is.
Didn't you go recently?
For what Chili's is.
Which is?
Just like
a restaurant.
Yeah, it's like American chain.
Casual
dining. Whatever.
Yeah.
To me, Chili's is like.
Is it over like an Applebee's?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I respect that.
Their fajitas there. Love it. Chips and salsa. Love it. Remember I told this to Darnay and he's like, wait, hold on. A restaurant gives out complimentary chips and salsa?
Yeah. I do
no way, bro.
Yeah. Fridays. Yeah. I don't know what to say. You know,
I don't think
there's only 4 left in California.
Yeah. I can't tell you the last time I've been to a TGI Fridays.
What? This is crazy. There's only 4 in this. Yeah. They've seen better days.
I've been to Chili's a bunch.
Yeah.
Applebee's. Haven't been to Applebee's in a while, actually. But Chili's, I've over at on Sports Arena.
Yeah, I know exactly.
By Chick-fil-A,
Mm-hmm.
Many a times.
Man,
for me, all 3 of those, the same thing.
Yeah,
there's some similarities.
There's a lot of similarities for sure.
It's like that meme of like, okay, which one of these is it? It's the same picture.
It's the same. I get it, but Applebee's, they don't have like the fajitas plate.
Applebee's, that makes sense.
Yeah, and they don't have the free chips and salsa.
When I was a kid, was there anything better than the fajitas plate? Like you'd see people getting around you,
the sizzling fajitas,
was amazing.
Tortillas. And
like, how do they do it?
It's awesome.
Incredible.
I love it.
It's still pretty cool.
It's still very good.
Makes me want to eat meat.
Eat meat, be a man.
Yeah, I mean, come on. What are you gonna do? Not eat the
Live a little?
fajitas that come out sizzling like that?
Well, you aren't because you're.
I know.
You're vegan.
Sucks.
Fake vegan.
I might have to be a vegetarian on 6 of the 7 days a week.
If you did eat meat, though, you would hate your life because you would be sick.
I know. You can't really get back in. I feel like I could slowly work my way.
Your body would be
in.
like, what the hell is this?
It wouldn't be good initially, but I think eventually I could. Although
you
I
just
really
have to ease into it.
Yeah, you got to ease in. You got to ease into it.
So just eat a couple double doubles from In-N-Out. You're good.
No. All right. We're back on Monday at 2 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. You can join us tonight following Padres Mariners Game 1 on YouTube for a wrap-up show. If you missed anything today, sportssd.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, or Spotify. And if you're listening to us on a podcast, please leave a review as well. Back Monday at 2 for Brent and Jim. I'm John. Keep it here at San Diego Sports 760.
Okay.
Bye-bye.